Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our third panel session for our event. Allow me to introduce our moderator, Mr. Jesse Francis N. Rebustillo, FPM, is the president of the Philippine Association of Professional Speakers. He's the chairman of the Philippine Society for Talent Development and the board of trustee of the PCAAE. Jesse is a management and human resource consultant, training consultant, seminar facilitator, and a keynote speaker as he conducts programs on values, leadership, emotional intelligence, work-life integration, team alignment, career development, strategic planning, job hunting, as well as sales and customer service. Jesse was the corporate human resources head of the Philippine Daily Inquirer. He shifted career to become the Inquirer's AVP for sales, classified advertising, and then was promoted as AVP for industry relations. He was also the editor of the Inquirer's Working People section and the chairman editor of ECOP's Philippine Employer magazine. He was the 2011 president of the Philippine Society for Training and Development and the 2016 president of the People Management Association of the Philippines. Our first panelist, Ms. Marie Cabantac, is the 2019 president of the Philippine Society for Talent Development. She's currently the principal partner of the Center for Innovation, Change, and Productivity. Was previously with Splash Corporation as a member of the board of directors, and prior to that, assistant vice president for learning and development, head of Splash University, and assistant vice president for corporate communication. Also, she was director of HR at Acrovedo Sirdia Limited and head of learning and OD at the Primer Group of Companies, among others. She's the 2019 president of the Philippine Society for Talent Development and chairman of the executive committee. During her term, PSTD led the Philippine learning community in the movement from learning to talent development with the formulation of the Philippine Talent Development Framework and expanded PSTD's reach with the establishment of PSTD CAR and Northern Mindanao chapters. She is credited for the founding of the most prestigious awards in learning and development, the PSTD Gawad Master Awards, along with the President Jesse Rebustillo in 2011. She served as chairperson of the first, second, and fourth Gawad Master Awards in 2011, 2013, and 2018, respectively. Among her other notable projects, also which were eventually institutionalized, are the Balik PSTD, It's Time to Come Home, and the PSTD Academy, where the Master Trainer certification traces its roots. She recently graduated from the Strategic Alignment Program at Oxford University, said business school, making her the country's first strategic alignment professional. Our next panelist is Mr. Lloyd Luna, RSPCWS, founder and president of the Philippine Association of Professional Speakers. Sergeant Lloyd Luna, PAFR RSPCWS, is the first Filipino to represent the Philippines in the Global Speakers Summit, the first to speak in a French and European Speakers Convention, the first Filipino to become member of the board of Global Speakers Federation, is a renowned professional speaker, author of 16 best-selling books, columnist at the Manila Times, and a sergeant at the Philippine Air Force Reserve Command. He's the founder of the New Channel Media Corporation, a live stream platform for inspirational shows, and of Step Back, a leadership and culture development company that helps leaders and organizations see the bigger picture in life and at work. Founder of the Philippine Association of Professional Speakers, he has been an Asian motivational speaker for over 15 years, delivering an average of 100 inspirational speeches annually. He's the first registered speaking professional, the highest earned designation given to Filipino professional speakers, and the first certified webinar speaker in the Philippines. Our third panelist is Mr. Roberto Policarpio, FPM, the 2015 president of the People Management Association of the Philippines, senior HR consultant and a fellow in people management. 36 years of work experience in the field of HRM, worked in various industries such as grains, banking, international retail, and manufacturing, had HR work assignments in China, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam, the 2015 national president and 2013 national vice president of the 50th annual conference chair and four-term national board of director of People Management Association of the Philippines. A trainer and resource speaker on leadership management, values, and programs on people development. He and his wife were chair couple for 13 years of the Sacred Heart of Jesus Parish Pastoral Council in Malabon City. He started his career in human resource management as personal officer at the HRM Directorate of the National Food Authority in 1984. He worked in Allied Banking Corporation as a training officer of the branch's administration division on March 1989. On June 1992, he joined the duty-free Philippines as training supervisor. A year after, he was promoted as department manager for manpower development until he became the division manager for HRM in February 1997. In February 2001, he joined the corporate human resources of San Miguel Corporation as the HR account manager for Ginebra San Miguel. He handled various managerial positions in the areas of training, organization development, employee relations and services, entrepreneurship, and international HR account management. He was the HR manager for domestic operations of South Luzon, sales of the San Miguel Beer Incorporated, in North Central Zone, San Miguel Brewery Plant, and sales from 2006 to 2007. He moved to San Miguel Yamamura Packaging Corporation on October 2008. He believes in continuous education and learning development. He has been active in PMAP committees and events since 1996. He was a national board of director from January 2000 to December 2003. In 2005, he was accorded with a degree of Fellow in People Management. He was the 2013 National Vice President of PMAP and Conference Chairman of the 50th Annual Conference held in September 25 to 27, 2013 at the Philippine International Convention Center, Manila, which established a new record of 1,500 attendees. Aside from his involvement in PMAP, he is presently active in the pastoral ministry of the Sacred Heart of Jesus Parish in Malabon City as the chairman of its parish pastoral council, together with his wife since 2007. He's happily married and has been blessed with three daughters. He studied in Vincentian Hill Seminary, the University of Santo Tomas, and Adamson University. He graduated in March 1984 with a degree in Bachelor Arts, major in philosophy. Ladies and gentlemen, I now turn you over to our moderator, Mr. Jesse Francis and Rebustillo. Once again, I'm turning you over to our moderator, Mr. Jesse Rebustillo.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. I was waiting for the host to unmute me. Okay. I'm sure you can hear me loud and clear. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Warm greetings to the association executives and association representatives in the House. Welcome to the third panel track of the 8th PCAAE Summit. Our track has a question. What does agile leadership in human resources and talent generation mean? We'll answer that later. But let me start by mentioning the leadership engagement technology now, which are what is it like working for you and what is it like working with you? Both are correct depending on the situation. Leadership has evolved beyond the traditional meaning of inspiring and guiding groups of people. Leadership now is the summation of strategy plus culture plus engagement so that the result is an improved business performance. Let me mention in passing as fast as I can the antidote of VUCA, because that's what we are having now and it's what we're leading to, which leaders must be keen and should adhere to. All of us know that it's volatility, but the antidote is vision. All of us know it is uncertainty. But the antidote is understanding. The more that you are uncertain, the more that leaders must be able to understand utmost emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
Complexity foresee, but it has to be clear. Our messages, our messaging must be clear because we are in this situation. We are in a pandemic and we do not know what we are bouncing forward to. The fourth is actually ambiguity. That is what I'm actually emphasizing because in our question, there is what we call the agility of leader. For ambiguity, you need agility. And even with agility, the AQ can also represent adversity quotient or adaptability. So adverse, if there are obstacles and challenges, then you have to be fast. And after you already have that agile mindset, then you have to adapt it. I added, and this is original, and I have two gifts for PCAAE. This is for Robert, this is for Charlie. I added a D. So aside from Pentagon's VUCA, I added a D, which is driven. Driven. And what is the antidote of driven? Digital. We have to be digital. So I think it's an opportune time with all of this. We are now ready to hear from our first panel speaker. Let us hear his thoughts on agile leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome the founder of the Philippine Association of Professional Speakers, the dashing Lloyd Luna.
Thank you so much, Sir Jesse. I can only remember dashing through the snow, but it's Christmas time. So thank you so much for, um, again, allowing me to be here. Salamat po sa inyong lahat, to my fellow panelists. Good afternoon to all of you. And to the Philippine Council of Association Executives, and the delegates in this year's convention. Wow, this is an unprecedented time in history we are living in right now. And this is almost unthinkable many years ago to have a summit, annual conventions such as this, because we are not used to it. Definitely, we are not used to it. So if you're not used to it, we are not used to it. I think everybody are not used to it. So this is an opportunity for us whether to accept it as it is, or we still try to resist whatever it is that is happening right now. But in the meantime, I'm going to talk about agility and leadership, and hopefully I make sense. If I don't make sense, it's just Rebustillo's fault because he invited me to be part of this. So please drop him some some notes and say Lloyd Luna didn't do a great job. But first, I would like to start off by saying that it's really difficult for us, almost impossible, to get ahead by trying to look backward. It's almost impossible for us to move ahead by trying to look back. Napakahirap na ikaw ay tatakbo at maglalakad na yung ulo mo ay nakaturn sa likod because at some point, you're going to bump. At some point, madadapa ka. At some point, you're going to fall. I'm saying this because it's very tempting for us, everyone, leaders, managers, supervisors, anyone in our communities. It's tempting to look back because there are a lot of good memories back there, right? I mean, in the past, it's like what we used to. Those are habits that, they are really good. It makes us feel good to remember. The things that we were used to do, they are there. And it's very tempting to look back because all the things that you are right now are products of those memories. And now, today, you're being challenged because those memories are kind of parked in there. So it's tempting to look back without really having to appreciate what we have at the moment. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we are facing right now, how we can really make sense of what is happening right now so that we can have an informed decision on how to move forward from here on. Now, for some people, it is what it is. For some people, it's there, it's in the past. For some people, maybe they're trying to look forward. And we are all told that leadership is also about having a vision, right? But I think at this particular junction in history, it's very important for us to appreciate what we have at the moment. I always share this back in the old days, that we will have to face reality as it is, not as it was or you wish it to be. So let me say that again. Face reality as it is, not as it was or you wish it to be. The only thing that is real right now is you and I having a conversation like this. The only thing that we have right now is that the gift of being present in here, because this is the only real thing right now. And the way we appreciate our present will determine how far we can go from here. The way we're going to move forward, the responses that we're going to make right here, right now, are very essential parts of what we are to have in the future. That's why, as leaders, I always believe that it's all right for us to step back a little and see the bigger picture. Because end of the day, sometimes it's not what it seems. During my professional speeches back again in those golden old days, I always say that what you see is more important than what you look at. Let me repeat that, because there is a sort of a wisdom in there that hopefully we all get it. What we see is more important than what we look at. By that, I'm saying it's not enough for us to just glance, take a glance and look, because probably there is something that the picture is telling us aside from the obvious. And seeing, the ability to see, is something that agile leaders should have. We cannot just look at this crisis as something that is negative, because we all know, and you and I agree, that there are a lot of successes and achievements and opportunities that we have at the moment. Many years ago, this is almost impossible to do. I mean, being able to be broadcasted all over the world, because we are limited in that hotel room or ballroom, and we just do the summit in there. And now we can reach as far as any parts of the world. And that's amazing, right? But again, this is not what we were used to have back then. So appreciation of what it is right now probably will sink in to all of us some time. It will take some time for us to appreciate it. But, and this is what I'm going to discuss specifically in my particular session, the art of restart. How do we appreciate our transformation as it happens? Because I always believe that we have always been in a transformation process. Whether we are aware about it or not doesn't really matter, because whether you like it or not, you're being transformed every single day. And so this afternoon, I hope I make sense. I hope my insights, I hope my sharing will make some sense, and hopefully it can inspire and help you to move forward. Now, when the pandemic was, when the pandemic started and the Philippines declared March 15, we are in enhanced community quarantine, I tell you, for a professional speaker like myself and Sir Jesse and mentor trainers like Sir Obet and Ma'am Fe, it's like a shock. And I think it's even more shocking to me because, last year I delivered more than 100 speeches, 101 speeches specifically. And by March, I was only giving 13 speeches. And all of a sudden, it was a hard stop for the world. And you know what happens when your microphone and your stage were taken away from you? It's like a singer who no longer has the microphone. How can the singer sings or performs? No, definitely, it was a shocking experience for me. And when the microphone was taken away from me, the microphone that I was always getting myself with for the past 16 years, it's a frustrating experience. So what I did after March 15, I became a bum. I did nothing. I was so unproductive. I was just so out of reality. I was out of touch. The motivational and inspirational figure that they used to see on stage, the Lloyd Luna that they used to see, it's not there. It wasn't there. I lost myself. So probably, I don't know if you're having the same kind of sort of an experience, but yeah, for a guy like me who never had the opportunity to watch television or series since March 15 up to until April 24, I learned how to watch Netflix. And yes, I was able to finish those Korean novellas and the other stuff that, most people would like, most people with so much time to spend on during the normal days. Now, it was a bomb moment for me, more than a month of being a rebel against myself and asking God, why does it have to happen? I mean, everything is supposed to be working fine there, but why does it have to happen? And it was only on April 25 that I said, maybe I should do something. I should do something because this cannot be forever. I cannot be forever bum. I cannot be forever just sitting here on my couch watching a series, because this is not my life. This is not who I am. So April 25, I started to do a live stream on Facebook, trying to just do again what I have been doing for the past 5 years, from 2010 to 2015 at the Global News Network, when I had my own television program. And it started there, and one comment said, the show is an inspirational show. It's funny, it's natural, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh my God, even if I don't speak, I can still inspire people? The answer clearly was, yes, I can still do it. At that point, I said, I'm going to do this. Maybe the platform was taken away from me, but my mission stayed in me. I'm supposed to be the same missionary guy. I'm supposed to be the same inspirational, funny guy that can inspire people. And when I realized that, I started moving on. By May 15, we decided we're going to make a channel out of one particular show. We're going to make many other shows. And then, voila. By June 17, we got the registration of the new company. We started a new company amid pandemic called the New Channel Media Corporation, which now has or is housing 27 live stream shows, regular live stream shows, airing from Mondays to Saturdays. I'm saying that because amid pandemic, putting up a company, almost impossible, but it happened. And then just last 3 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to do again what was supposed to be unthinkable. November 6 to 8, I had to go somewhere outside the Metro Manila to train. And after the training, weeks of training, in fact, weeks of training in the military, I graduated as sergeant at the Philippine Air Force Reserve Command. Now, being part of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, never in my mind, I couldn't imagine I have done those things, but I'm saying this because right now it's just unthinkable. I just thought, when people say 2020 is not yet done with us, I'm saying, hey, 2020, I am not yet done with you. And I think as leaders, that should be the mindset. So let me flash my slides on the framework that I would like to share with you, because this is exactly what happened to me. And hopefully, if you're a leader, you can make good sense of this, because this is what it is right now. You can identify where you are in this framework, so you can make an informed choices and decisions moving forward. So first, I think the personal transformation framework, whether you're a leader, manager, or just an ordinary human being, it always starts with frustration. It always starts with frustration. That is frustration. Now, I was frustrated for more than a month. You know what happens when you're frustrated? You're having the mindset of a loser. So the second one is you are in that position. Next, please. There you go. Loser. When you're frustrated, you feel you're a loser. And at some point, you and I felt this. In the past couple of months, we were loser. We cannot do anything. We're just not there in the game. We're just trying to let time pass, and whatever opportunities right there. Now I'm going to sit just right here and wait. Maybe the vaccine will come a few weeks, few months from now. But we think like losers. We cannot do anything. Until at that point, in my case, on April 25, that I realized I have to move on. I realized I have to accept what I have at the moment and do something about it. So that the next point would be, please click, realization. I realized that this cannot be dragged this cannot drag on forever. And I have to do something about it. I had to make sure I make use of what I have at the moment. So when you realize that, you move to another stage. Please click, which is now becoming a player. Now you decide that you want to play again. Now the rules have changed, and that you will have to study the new rules, or upskill or retool or reskill, whatever is necessary. But if you are trying to be a player, now you have a 50% chance of winning. Unlike when you feel like a loser, you have 0% chance of winning. Now 50%, as we all know, is much better than 0% chance of winning. Now when you decide to play the game, and all our associations in the Philippines and around the world are into right now, changing the game, changing the policies, the systems, the structure, because the rules have changed. And then this is the opportunity for us to take several actions, which leads me to another point: taking actions. Now, whether or not you think your choices or actions are wrong or correct doesn't really matter. What matters right now is to make a decision and take an action. Besides, I always believe that imperfect decision always beats perfect indecision. And let me say that again: imperfect decision almost always beats perfect indecision. I would rather decide right now and see for myself whether my decision is correct or not eventually, because at the point when you decide, there's really no telling whether you are right or wrong. And so that if it's wrong, you don't actually lose. And that brings me to another point, which is when you start taking action, you become a winner, whether you fail or succeed. If your action fails you and you failed in that particular decision, you learn. You don't lose, you learn. But when you succeed, you also learn. I'm saying this because if this is telling us to, this situation is telling us to make choices and take actions, whether we are sure about it or not, this is the best time for us to do it. Because we are in the rebuilding process, and no one is expecting you to be perfect at this point, because nobody is. Nobody has been perfect. And so this personal transformation, again, when you become a winner, there will be coming another a time in your life when you will become frustrated again. You feel like a loser. You are going to realize again that something has to be done. You decided to be a player again, and once you're in the game, you're going to develop, you're going to retool yourself, and then you're going to take actions, become a winner again. This is a personal transformation framework that I think every leader in our organization should understand, because identifying where we are in this particular framework is very important for us to make that conscious decision and choices. And in fact, we can use this particular framework in order for us to gauge whether or not we are moving forward. We can also make use of this framework in order for us to assess our followers, the members of our organization, where they are right now. Because as leaders, if you are to exercise your agile leadership, I think it's very important for you to understand if your members are in the frustration stage, like thinking like loser, or they realize that they should do something about it, and they act like players and take actions and eventually become winners. The greatest challenge in our time right now is not really the virus, because the virus will be there whether we like it or not. The greatest challenge right now is how we respond to the global pandemic that has flattened everything. I hope this presentation has given you some inspiration moving forward. And I just want to conclude with one statement. Always remember that what you see is always more important than what you look at. Thank you for your time.
Wow, wonderful presentation. Thank you, Mr. Lloyd Luna, for that original framework that you shared to the participants of this agility conference, leading an agility conference. After learning the personal transformation framework from Mr. Lloyd Luna, let us now listen to a short presentation on talent development from the immediate past president of the Philippine Society for Talent Development, Ms. Marie Cabantac. Marie?
Thank you, Jesse. So I have been forewarned. This short presentation. Thank you, Jesse. First, I'd like to greet the officers of the Philippine Council of Association and Association Executives, the organizing committee of this year's annual conference. I also would like to greet the delegates to this conference. And I'd like to thank you all. I thank you really very much for this opportunity to be here. And I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be with the three gentlemen who are stalwarts in their respective associations. They're actually also my very good friends. I'd like to tackle agility in HR and talent generation within the context of talent development. Almost a year into the pandemic, the way we work has changed dramatically. And it has not fully taken shape. It continues to evolve. And the call to leaders is to change the way we do things, to do things differently, to evolve, to transform. The question is, how are our leaders responding? How are they coping? How are they preparing their employees to respond effectively and positively to all of these changes in the workplace? I have had the privilege of leading the country's premier association in talent development at a time that it was transitioning from training and development to talent development. The first order of the day, as soon as we assumed our role as members of the board of trustees, was to define talent development, to understand what it truly is. Google it, you'll not find anything. At the time, people thought that when you say talent development, people started thinking about talents in the entertainment industry, talents in the sports industry, not talents in corporate or in the workplace. So we embarked on this particular gathering that was to ask the learning community, the various stakeholders in the talent profession to come together and help us to understand and find the answers rather to the burning questions of what is its scope? How will it affect talent development or learning and development professionals? How will it affect HR professionals? How will it affect coaches and mentors and what have you? What kind of shift is expected? What kind of requirements are expected of us practitioners in the talent profession? And the response was overwhelming. In the morning, we had the CEOs. We felt that at that point, we needed to give them a voice. We needed to understand straight from the horse's mouth what talent development is to them. We needed to understand what are their expectations of their HR and their learning and development function. We needed to understand if HR and L&D are ready for this shift. And we also needed to understand what they think would be the benefits of the transition from training and development to talent development. Like I said, they responded warmly. in the CEO Talent Development Forum with no less than JP Orbeta of the Ayala Group. We also had Lloyd Luna right there with us. And the whole group of CEOs, COOs, heads of organizations, people in the C-suite declared unanimously that no one will be left behind. It was a resounding statement. No one will be left behind. And when they say no one will be left behind, they recognize that every individual in the organization has the right and the opportunity for development. In the afternoon of the same day, we had more than 100 heads of HR, of learning and development, who were there to help us frame what we now call the Philippine Talent Development Framework. To this day, I continue to have goosebumps when I recall that very afternoon in this particular gathering and how people came together, how much ideas we generated, and all of these were beautifully put together, woven together to provide the foundation for what is now the Philippine Talent Development Framework. I'm referring to the closing keynote of no less than the president, the former president and dean of SAIDI, Dr. Rose Fuentes. Dr. Rose Fuentes defined talent development, and this definition actually is something that she called from the generation of ideas in the birthing process. And she said, the talent development is the exploring, stretching, and extricating of innate, endowed, and acquired talents of individuals. So we now know today that talent development is not skills development, nor is it training, nor is it performance management. Talent development is a journey that begins in the family system, where people around us take notice or they see our potentials. And the significant people or influencers in this phase of the talent development journey are our parents, our grandparents, our siblings, and yes, even our yayas. It goes on in the school system, which actually has a more disciplined framework for approaching talent development. So that there is where our teachers would see our strengths, for example, in writing, in speaking, in the arts, and whether or not we have a good experience around this. This can either be further developed or lost in translation. And then this journey continues on in life, in the jungle of relationships, as what Dr. Fuentes says, in the jungle of relationships, where we now begin to undergo mastery, more training, more education, which leads to excellence and mastery. And the significant people in this particular phase would be gurus, people that we work with, our mentors, perhaps our bosses, our co-workers, even the people that we meet along the way when they make an impact on us. This could be speakers even in conventions such as this. They become the influencers that will help us carve a niche for the betterment of oneself and for the future of the organization and the community. I wish I can go on and on, but this This is expansive. It continues until the individual realizes his full potential. Unlike in training and skills development, where we aim for the development of certain technical expertise, the indication of success in talent development is when the individual realizes his full potential, thereby allowing him to express the talent freely. Like I said, I wish I can give you this, I can tell you more about it, but I have very little time. I have limited time, and Jesse's already saying, short lang, short. Okay. So I'd like to zero in on what is within our sphere of influence as practitioners in the field of HR, in the field of FOD, in the field of talent development or training and development, and for all of us in associations, people like us who play an important role in molding individuals, therefore molding the society in its ideal states. So that said, may I please have my slide? What I'm going to show you is an offshoot of the mother framework, which I explained earlier, which is what we call the organizational talent development framework. So if the talent development framework as a journey spans the entire human life cycle, the organizational talent development framework spans the entire period that the individual is part of an organization or a community. And it begins with what we call talent discovery. In HR, we call it talent acquisition, but talent discovery is a step away from the conventional talent acquisition. By talent discovery, we mean spotting talents beyond the prescriptions of job descriptions and competency models. What we want to be able to look at is the person, who he is, what he has, what he brings to the organization, and what he can do. All of which are outside what we have initially envisioned by way of a job description and the competency model. Conventionally, when we do not find a fit between the individual's resume and the job description or the competency model, then the resume finds itself in the wastebasket, but not in talent development. Talent leaders, talent practitioners are supposed to look beyond what they initially see or what they initially envision. From talent discovery, we have what we call disciplined dreaming. Basically, we say career path, learning path. When we say disciplined dreaming, we actually consider not just the organization's ambitions or what we call corporate ambition, but we actually also look at the personal ambition, and that convergence between the corporate ambition and the personal ambition is a very powerful force that can actually be executed in what we call disciplined dreaming. While it is the role of talent development professionals or the talent development function in the organization to help individuals craft their career path and the learning path, which will enable them to contribute to the achievement of the organization's goals and objectives. It is also imperative for them to help individuals choose from among a set of possibilities and vehicles upon which the individual can carve his niche, again, beyond the initial prescriptions of the job competency models. From disciplined dreaming, we also look at performance development, not performance management as we know it today. So how different is performance development? It's actually putting the person in the middle or in the center of all this entire process, which is basically also what we do in talent discovery and in disciplined dreaming. So we put the person in the center of the process, and the focus is strengths. The focus is what the person can do rather than what he cannot do. It's not focused on the failures of the past. Instead, it's focused on possible successes in the future. That's why in the firm that I am a part of, the Center for Innovation, Change, and Productivity, we actually created a model which is very much aligned to this. And instead of feedbacking in the process of performance management, we call it feed forwarding. We talk about possibilities rather than failures. And that's performance development. If our managers have that particular mindset of talent development, which is that they recognize that each one is innately endowed with abilities and capabilities and potentials and talents, then by understanding all of these, who the person is, what he can do and what he has, then he can actually help push the person towards higher performance or better performance. And then there's learning in the flow of life as also being espoused by talent development. What's learning in the flow of life? With rapid and ongoing changes, it is very important that learning also evolves as fast as it can. And today, the organizational ecosystem has actually become learning and work. Never before has learning and work become so connected and interconnected and integrated than it is today. Learning and work together. Learning has become so personalized. Content is made available anytime, anywhere. We learn at home where we do work now. We learn in all the kinds of interactions that we have remotely and online and what have you. Learning in the flow of life means that learning naturally occurs in our day-to-day work. Human experience. Human experience versus employee experience. What it simply means is that in learning, individuals need to understand what does all this learning mean to me? It's actually driving meaning back to what we learn. While it is our responsibility to develop our employees along the technical competencies that they need to perform or deliver, talent professionals need to be able to understand what meaning employees can derive from all that they learn. So the question here is, what are all this learning for? Am I able to use my talents, my strengths and abilities? Am I able to find meaningful expression for all of these? can I make a difference by all that I know, by all that I have and all that I can do? That's human experience for you. In the past, we've been so concerned about creating work-life balance. That's employee experience. When we're able to provide opportunities for them to be able to experience things outside work in the workplace. But in talent development, we look beyond events, beyond activities. We look at meaning. What meaning do employees find in the things that they learn? When we have all this, Jessie, my dear delegates, I think we would have been able to provide the environment by which organizations can be agile, particularly in the HR function and the talent generation function. Jessie?
Yes, wonderful Femery.
Thank
That
you.
is another original framework, first in this 8th PCAAE Summit. I am learning from Lloyd. I am also learning from you. Yes, from talent discovery to human experience. A change in mindset for us in talent development, hand holding, engagement of executives to really be in the talent development. Now, to complete our perspective, let us welcome our last panel speaker who will talk on the future of the human resources, the future of the strategic human resource management. Let us welcome the 2015 Philippine People Management Association of the Philippines President Roberto Policarpio.
Good afternoon, PAPS President Jesse Rebustillo, to the officers, trustees, delegates of the PCAAE, and together with my other esteemed resource speakers, Lloyd Luna and Marie. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. So alam mo natin na ang pagbabago ay nangyayari. Hindi lang kahapon, hindi lang ngayon, kundi bukas. And change is happening exponentially whether we like it or not. Of course, makikita natin, oh, ano nangyari? May mga tao dyan, ang tanong ay, bakit? Ano nangyari? Pero, ang isang klaseng tao ay ito, kinakailangan merong tamang mangyari. And we know that as leaders, we need to distill and refine the different experiences that we are experiencing, okay, that are happening around us, because all the information and the data that are being presented in front of us are need to be screened, need to be analyzed, so that we'll be able to ultimately find the real meaning and relevance of all this happening around us. And not only around us, not only in our environment, but first and foremost to ourselves. Now, we need to bounce forward. But in bouncing forward, so that we need to have that big ricochet, we need to go backwards. And sometimes going backwards to move ahead is the right option. A straight path isn't always the route forward. Kaya makikita nyo dyan, today, sa EDSA, tinanggal na po dyan yung mga U-turn. Di ba ho? Siyempre, at first, marami tayong reactions. And it only implies that there is a change happening. But after some weeks that those U-turns had been closed already, I think most of the motorists are starting to adapt to the change. And we need really to take a look at it. And we know that a leader is a good follower. So kinakailangan tayo individually, as citizen of this country, need to sometimes, you know, make some sacrifices. Because as leaders, we have different roles to fulfill. Ano yung mga roles natin? We need to become good listener. At the same time, we have to be loyal. Loyal not only to a person, but most especially loyal to the organization and to the majority. We need to become energetic. Kahit na tayo mismo, minsan may mga pinagdadaanan, we also have some problems. And aside from being energetic, we need to empower others. Otherwise, how can we empower others kung tayo mismo, we lack the energy, the enthusiasm, the joy, the happiness, and the positivity. We need also to become diligent in everything we do, especially in the little things that have been entrusted to us. Parang sa ganon, the people around us, especially our direct reports, the people who are part of our team, will also be engaged. All right? Now, other than being diligent and engaged, we need to become reliable. No? Reliable means you need not to be reminded. In other words, we need to become conscious always of our initiative. And definitely, we need to be respectful. Okay? So, hindi ko mo tayo ang leader, tayo lang ang masusunod. At kinakailangan, we must be able to recognize also some members of our team who have natural leadership in themselves. Siyempre, importante dyan that we need to become good role models as servers. A servant, that is a true mark of a leader. Now, aside from those things, we need to be honest. Okay, because honesty is very important. Otherwise, if we don't value honesty, definitely it will affect our integrity. At kinakailangan, we are always be ready to be helpful, especially to the needy. Okay? Now, we need to safeguard our integrity. Between character and competence, what is most important? Of course, we have different answers. Character is more important? No. Competence is more important. Actually, both of them are important and essentials. But it is character that will spell everything. That's why we need to take good care of our integrity. And lastly, we need to be continuously passionate in everything we do, no matter what the circumstances is all about. And we need to become proactive. And that is what leadership is all about. Again, leadership is listener, loyalty, empowering, energetic. We have to be diligent, we have to be engaging, and then we have to be reliable, respectful, honest, helpful, take good care of our integrity. We have to be passionate and productive. Because I define leadership in 4 operative terms. First and foremost, without saying anything, by merely walking down the aisle with our presence, people will be inspired. Why? Because they believe in us. They see true actions coming from our heart, which is authentic, real. Now, other than being inspired, they are naturally motivated. They will follow not because of fear, they will follow not because we told them to do so. They voluntarily do it more than what we require of them. So inspiration plus motivation is equals to persuasion. So definitely they will perform. We need to have 4 imperatives as a leader for us to be able to carry this inspiration, motivation, persuasion, and performance in people. What are these four imperatives? We need to have the abilities, we need to establish, nurture, and sustain good interpersonal relationship within and outside of our organization. It's best to over communicate rather than miscommunicate, and we always look at the process that will help us achieve efficiency, effectivity, and productivity. But we must never sacrifice people over process. So in other words, for us to be able to cope with the changes that's happening exponentially around us, we need to have three major sets. What are these three major sets? Mindset, skill set, and action set. Now, when it comes to mindset, leader has the right mindset and learns relevant competencies to successfully adapt to the new realities, especially when leading and managing in a VUCA world. Alam na natin ibig sabihin ng VUCA, di ba? Volatile, uncertainty, complexity, and agility. Now, we need to measure honestly how my actions as a leader live up to my core principles and how my behaviors measure up to my core values vis-a-vis to the core values of the organization. And leadership entails three major elements: commitment, responsibility, and accountability. Commitment, hindi pa pwedeng, ay ayoko na, kayo na lang dyan. No. We must be able to respond at the right time, at the right place. And that is what responsibility is all about. And we can honestly account each and every item given to us, okay, without shortchanging the organization, the people, and the society. I believe that leadership is about stewardship. Leadership is not ownership. And when we say leadership, it connotes servant leadership. So what is servant leadership? Think first, myself second, meaning I think more of others, less of me. And as a servant leader, I prioritize the needs of others over my own. I treat others and approach situations with an open mind. And I put aside my personal viewpoint first so that I'm able to value others. And I would like to share with you some principles so that we'll be able to live by servant leadership. First is the principle of my attitude. What's my attitude? Value people. People first. Second, my vision. As a leader, what is my commitment to people, to others? Third is my character, meaning I have to safeguard my integrity. Fourth is my time. What are the standards I set for people? But before I set the standard, I show them that standards consistently in my actions. And lastly, my leadership. It's how I influence and persuade people so that they are continuously motivated in doing so. So how do we now reconcile servant leadership with difficult goals and decisions, especially during this pandemic period? First, we need to demonstrate values and right behaviors that we want to see in others. Personal actions. Second, we need two situations from the other's perspectives. It means we have to empathize. Third, we need to make decisions for the common good. Fourth, we have to ensure that members have the competencies and resources they need to meet the objectives. We need to also to manage maturely emotions and behaviors and consider how this affect people, especially our own emotions and behavior. Build team consensus so that everyone supports the decision. And lastly, let's be responsible for the performance of our team while being accountable for any failures, if any. And this only means agility. Thinking, feeling, and performing with flexibility, speed, and good quality actions that are value driven. We need to think and act quickly with right solutions, interventions, and actions beyond the normal way of doing and behaving. It also entails resilience. What is resilience? It's our ability and capability to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness, bounce forward and transcend borders to be in a better situation and condition. There is no such thing as impossible for a leader. Everything is always possible. Cope steadfastly in spite of setback and barriers without compromising your character. Of course, again, sustain motivation. Needs one's desires are interrelated, which serve as internal driving forces to action. Motivation is a continuous process that leads to high morale, empowerment, optimism, and not only happiness but joy. Because life involves dynamic interaction with others, change, environment, something that we have to improve on always as long as there is willingness to embrace change and to make the right change. So we need to have zeal and passion so that people will become engaged in delivering positive results, driven by inspiration and motivation, and emotionally involved both in human relations as well as in the performance process. And don't forget to have SMART and positive goals, specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, and time-bound. Now, what will sustain us? It's discipline, because discipline means discerning the right choices that are focused on the end goal rather than making any easy choices without thinking of the negative consequences. Let's define the boundaries, leading to empowerment anchored on vision, mission, goal, values, and norms, roles, and policies. Competency is important. That takes more than knowledge and skills. It requires the right attitude that is being manifested in our respective behaviors. Be mindful by objectively assessing myself vis-a-vis my life and observing non-judgmentally. Bawal po ang judgmental on how others treat me and how I treat others. And it's best to over-communicate rather than miscommunicate. What is communication? Communication is simply tell them early, tell them often. People filter information based on assumption, emotional state, experiences, and perception. And I'd like to end this. It's not what a person says, it's how does that reveals the true character and motive of the heart. And there are two most important letters in the word heart, H and R. H and R means human relations. It is heart that connects you and me. It is heart that binds us. And what is heart? Heart is love. And if we take for granted these two most important letters, the H and R, what word will remain is it. It means thinking more of me and less of others. So always have that heart, thinking more of others and less of me. And that is what is leadership is all about. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you very much. I past president of PMAP, Roberto Policarpio. Now we are ready to have some conversation. And why don't we just first answer the topic, the question, what does agile leadership in human resources and talent generation mean? It will be wonderful if you can really zero in and nail it. Can we have the first reply from our speakers? What does agile leadership in human resources and talent generation mean? I can see the smile from who would like to go first?
Ladies
Sir,
first.
Okay, Lloyd. Okay.
I nominate Marie Cabantac.
Yes.
Ladies first. Our queen.
Okay, go first. Go first. Yes, yes, family. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you.
Agility in HR and talent generation. I think it would be the ability to pivot fast and at the same time maintaining strategic coherence.
I see. So
What
pivots
I
as
mean, what I mean by that is when we're agile as an organization, or let's just say as a function, we are able to realign, reallocate, redesign, resources so that we're able to respond in a nimble manner to the changes in the internal and the external environment.
I
While
heard.
we need to be able to pivot fast, we should not forget that we are part of a whole, and we should be able to maintain that strategic coherence. What do I mean exactly by that? Because by the things that we do in HR and in talent generation, this actually will affect the whole of the organization. A specific example, we cannot be training our employees, for example, to be agile if the strategic approach of the enterprise is stability. We cannot be training our employees in the areas or strengthening them in the areas of connectivity when the strategic approach is autonomy.
Right.
Pivot fast. To me, agility in HR and talent generation is the ability to pivot fast and maintaining strategic coherence.
Yes, yes. We'll go back to you. Can we have your answer? Wonderful answer, Mr. Lloyd Luna.
Pass. Next, Sir Obet.
Okay, Mr. Robert Policarpio. What does
All right.
leadership in human resources?
Yes, no problem. Since we are in the field of human resource or people management, it's very crucial that we really put value in people. And we have to take note that each individual has different levels of understanding, different maturity, and different way of looking at things. So it's important that we are sensitive in a way that we are able to empathize to each and everyone in the organization so that we'll be able to connect with them in terms of their emotions more than our thought process. No? Kasi minsan yun ang nakakalimutan eh. Yung feeling level, again, I go back to what I said a while ago, we have to connect using our heart. No? Kasi yun ang maintindihan natin, maunawaan natin sila. Otherwise, if we neglect the heart and we become rational and we become so strict in terms of enforcing the policy, the guidelines, and definitely will not be able to really make the right decisions, and that requires discernment. So importante yung flexibility, speed, and making good quality actions that are value-driven.
I heard you, and thank you, PP Obet. I heard you, Femery, mention that there should be engagement from um, executives, from the leadership, from management. Can you expand on that?
I think, Jesse, I'd like to really be able to cite, I do not remember exactly if this was a study by McKinsey or Gallup, but what I remember from that study is that while leaders recognize the importance of talent development or learning and development, especially at this time of the pandemic, where we're experiencing unprecedented changes. The study shows that they have very little participation in the learning process.
That's true. That's true.
Parang support lang sila. But they're not really looked up to as role models in learning and development or talent development. What employees are looking to see in their leaders is that they are participants in the learning process. They're either learners themselves or that they are facilitators of learning. Jesse?
Yes, thank you. Now we can hear from Mr. Lloyd Luna because that is actually your intention in PAPS. The
Oh.
engaged, yes. Yes. Can you share with us?
Yeah, is that so? But anyway, yes, maybe yes, it is. Siyempre, I'm going to answer the question, para saan pa yung barong ko kung hindi ako sasagot sa...
Yeah, that's true.
Sure, I bet no, magbabarong-barong hindi makasagot sa tanong. What's the question again?
Yeah, the engagement of executives in leadership or management in HR or talent development and in talent generation.
Let me address very briefly yung first question because kala nyo naman wala ako talagang sagot doon sa unang tanong. Siyempre, mayroon akong sagot. My answer to the first question is agile leadership. Basically, agility is being able to decide very quickly with some sound judgment. So it's not just being able to decide quickly like there's no basis for any decision. But in order for us to understand the agility in leadership, we have to understand the transformation process, because without understanding the transformation process that is happening, where we are right now at the moment, what do we have, who do we have, however we like it, I think it's very dangerous for us to make such a quick decision without having to go through the understanding part of the transformation process. That's why in my presentation, I said, if you're a leader, you will have to understand where exactly you are in the framework. Now, as far as engagement is concerned, I think this is the time in history as well that leaders should be able to be seen and be felt, because otherwise members don't engage themselves necessarily automatically. One of the tasks and the goals of the leader is to be able to be there as a binding agent, must be able to connect each one to each other, because that's what he or she must be able to do. So in the Philippine Association of Professional Speakers, whether it's offline or online, we are able to engage our audience because we talk to them and we treat them as equals. We don't tell them that I have been in the motivational speaking space for 15 years. I am more superior than you are. You are just starting up. So, there's no really a sort of a wall that divides us. Instead, there's no wall, and everybody's just welcome to express who they are and start the learning and teaching process. We call it mentoring in our association. So by engagement, I think that's where the leader should really step in, be able to be the binding agent for members, and this is even more important in this particular point, because everybody seems to have lost their their true north, or
Right.
their whatever you call it. But yun, mayroon yan, may term yan, hindi ko lang makuha.
Anyway, thank you for that answer. How about this? So it's written in our description what people's skills and traits are needed for the better normal. What do you think? What are uh, the people's skills, the competencies that you mentioned it in your talk, but in passing. But let us zero in on what are the people's skills and traits. For me, I will start. I think one is they have to be technologically savvy. Of course, that's the easiest. If you are not on top, that is a total online presence, which we are doing in PAPS, in PMAP, and PSTD. That includes your PSTD, your authenticity, your your genuine character, total online presence, and then of course technologically savvy. Then you are lost this time. So
Yeah,
what else?
that's the advantage of being a moderator. You know exactly what to ask, so you know exactly the answer, right?
Aside from that, what other skills that are needed? The new skills. What other competencies needed
Jesse,
for the future?
Jesse,
Yes,
I,
family.
I'll have to say it's empathy. There are so many skills that we need in this new normal environment, but empathy, I think, is one of the most important skills or capabilities.
Family, can you teach empathy?
Jesse, it can be taught. It can be modeled. Again, and thanks for that question, because really it's something that's so much aligned to in fact, it's one of the concepts in development talent development being a journey from the home to the workplace to the community. And just like any value that we are we are taught or we are exposed to or that we catch, empathy is something that we also catch. It's something that takes root in childhood.
I see. So it cannot be taught, but it can be caught.
It can be caught, it can be modeled.
Okay, so there should be a good model. How about you, PP Obet? What are the competencies that you can see that will be required in the future?
I think before I answer that question, I will cite the basic foundation of all these things, which is the value of malasakit. Value of malasakit. It's really putting myself on the situation of each and every one. So if there are 20 people in front of me and they are in my flock, I need to feel how they feel so that I'm able to really connect with each and every one. In other words, different strokes for different folks. And I agree with you that we need to be tech savvy. We need to be connected. But we cannot be connected with others if there is a disconnection in our own selves. We need to really measure our capability, our strengths, and our areas for improvement and work on that. And that leads to competencies. Now, other than these two terms, connectivity and competency, I think we have to be constantly very good in our communication skill, no, being able to really not only stay in words but more in actions. Kaya
I
yung empathy, it's not really more of saying and doing this, but making people feel how authentic your heart is.
nice.
Now,
I
if
love
you
it.
you you do a summation, connectivity plus competency plus communication, that is equals to collaboration.
Right,
And that is where engagement is all about.
right. I hope our viewers are learning from us because these are the competencies, the qualities that are needed in the future?
Jesse,
Lloyd, yes, before Lloyd, yes,
may I
Marie.
just catch a bit there? Still on the topic of empathy. Because a lot of times when we talk of empathy, which is expected of leaders, we forget that in this equation, the leader also needs empathy.
Right,
The leader also needs to be appreciated.
right.
Jesse, you remember your nephew, the
Yes.
pastoral vicar of Tabaco Albay, who was your guest in your
Yes,
line
in TNC, in
program.
the
And
new
it's
channel.
about his realization, his reflection that the pandemic is not really God's way of testing our faith, but God's way of teaching us how to appreciate again something that we may have
Wonderful.
Yes. And I'm saying this because a lot of times we forget about the leader who also needs to be affirmed, who also needs to be appreciated.
Yes.
Diba? That's why kung meron tayong tinatawag na donors fatigue, bigay ng bigay, tapos hindi naman siya na-appreciate. Diba? There's also what we call empathy fatigue. And we do not want that to happen to our leaders.
Right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Very good. Okay, with that, can we hear from you, Lloyd? What will be the qualities, competencies that you can see that will really be needed, required in the future?
Well, I think our leaders today must have sharpened the ability to see rather than just look. What I mean by that is this is a time in history when you don't just look at the obvious, because definitely there's always a bigger picture that we need to see. I mean, as far as we know, this is a crisis, but for some people, this are bringing in a lot of opportunities for us. For example, in our association, the Philippine Association of Professional Speakers, we understand that we are not limited by the space that we rent out during our seminars and workshops. Now we can do a lot of online training and speaking, and we can actually do more speaking engagements because there is no longer traveling required of us. Of course, we miss the crowd, we miss the sensation. But I'm saying is the ability to see what is in here, because I cannot even imagine being able to be back in the same normal that this kind of technology is being used. I think when the vaccine becomes available and we are back in the normal scenarios, I think there will be a lot of permanent changes, and one of the permanent changes would be speaking professionals having this online kind of presentation as part of the norm eventually. So the ability to see things through, the ability to see the bigger picture. Many people don't simply look into something and they don't see anything. So the competency of being able to see through it, being able to analyze things, I think that's one competency that our leaders must be able to master.
Now, don't look at the trees, but look at the forest. That's the big picture, and that is your show in TNC.
Exactly.
Yeah, looking. Now, there is a question here from Enrique Florencio, that's Boyet of ADPM. Agile leadership is very much relevant in this day and age before and after the pandemic. How about the agility of staff supporting every leader? So how are you going to strengthen them, and what programs are we going to provide to the staff? Can we have answer from anybody of you? How are we going? So how can associations, how can organizations strengthen our staff so that they can also be agile?
I was already typing my response to that question, Jesse. Aside from training programs, which are really readily available in the market from various providers, I think to strengthen agility in the organization also means that we see the alignment of all of these elements. Like I was saying, if we do something about agility in the management system, then we make sure that that is supposed to support a certain structure. So we look at the structure, we look at the processes, we look at the core individuals or persons that are supposed to deliver what we call the core capability of the organization.
I
So
see.
it's putting all of these things, all of these elements in place.
Okay.
Otherwise, if we just train them without really doing something or transforming our structures, our processes, our core capabilities, then agility is not going to work.
Spot on. It has to be integrated. The change
Integrated,
should be,
aligned, yes.
the change has to be aligned. So that means they need us to tell them to do strategic planning. The strategic planning has to be integrated. Very good. Any other answer to that? Because we are now over time. Any answer to that?
Ako,
How are you? Yes,
I just like to share this. I think listening with the ears of another and seeing with the eyes of another and feeling with the heart of another.
yes. That is emphatic listening. You listen with your ears, understand with your head, reply with your heart. Yes, that's emphatic listening.
I'm
But
going to
this,
add. I'm going to
yes,
add very, very quickly. In order for us to strengthen our staff and the people who are running our association, I think the number one very simple thing. Well, not really simple. Maybe it's even more complicated if you're going to implement that. But just giving them the assurance. I think reassurance is part of it. That things will be okay. Things will be better. I mean, I'm going to touch on the training component, but I'm going to just be there to assure that everything will be fine, that we are all in this particular process and we are going to see this through. So I think that's one thing that our staff would want to really hear, that we are not going anywhere, that we are going to stay, because
spot,
that's how our organizations are designed, right? I mean, to stay longer than we are.
spot on, Lloyd. You nailed it. The presence is the key. Okay, so let us be. Thank you, Femery. Thank you, PP Obet, and thank you, Lloyd. Let me now conclude what we had. Can I have the slide? I prepared a slide for this. Actually, can we have my slides, my 2 slides? Actually, what we're considering, the traditional workers, the manual, the clerical, the managerial, but actually we have been forcing them to be knowledge workers. We have been requiring them to use information, upgrading, upskilling them. So actually we were honing people to be knowledge workers. But at this time, the pandemic actually made VUCA a reality. So we have now what to call digitalent. PSTD just had that as the theme. The digitalent is actually a mindset. The digitalent is actually taking in consideration your resilience, your empathy, your agility, but of course that you are digital. You are driven and digital. But the question is, what will be the worker that we're thinking, molding in the future? We even have them, I even had it in 2030, just to put an absolute number. I, again, as a gift to PCAAE, coined a new word. Aside from the dream, it is driven in VUCAD. Now I coined novel producer. Why novel? Because this is post-COVID. This is the new worker. This is the worker that we have been discussing. That is why I ask you, what are the competencies? Why producer? This is what is actually being espoused by ILO and recent studies. For the gig worker, for the gig economy, the freelancer, the the Uber, the worker in the Uber arrangement, the on call. We are being told that the 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 contractualization, that one of the contingent worker will now be the next thing to do. So this will be the noble producer. Everyone will be asked to produce. Can we have the second slide? So to conclude, can we have my second slide, please? This is the H or imperative. So we have to develop the digitization ethics strategy, which should be total online presence. Reimagine the skills development, which was given to us by Marie Cabantac. Build a culture of transparency, which was given to us by Mr. Roberto Policarpio, and reinvent the role of leaders for the new normal. You should have listened to Mr. Lloyd Luna and use technology to access jobs. So what should associations do? Benchmark from other associations, what is actually being done. Get the best practices, but always think what is best for you should be the one that you should choose. Benchmark and calibrate. Provide the things that are required for being digital. But what I mean by benchmark is that you have to look into those processes, those practices that can be beneficial to your organization. Then, of course, retrain, upgrade, retrain and upgrade your staff, your members, so that, and then sustain it. And then, of course, we have to be agile. As mentioned by our three speakers, we have to be fast. We have to be fast in our decision. As mentioned by Lloyd, we have to see it, the big picture. As mentioned by PP Obet, we must start from ourselves. And that is also what it was explained by our dear Marie Cabantac. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Marie. Thank you very much, Lloyd. And thank you very much, Robert Policarpio. And thank you very much for the opportunity that you are here. Yes, Bobby.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jesse. And, it's unfortunate we haven't met in person, Marie, Lloyd, and Obet, but in good times we should get together. And that's also one of the advocacies of PCAAE is to really link people and ideas. So it's really good to learn from you and your gem of wisdom and inspiring insight. So thank you so much for your frameworks. These frameworks, in fact, can be also be adapted to associations. And as you know, PCAAE is like the association of and for associations. So thank you so much for your time and insights. We will send you a nice certificate and a hand sketch drawing of your photo by one of the daughters of our staff. So I hope you will appreciate that also. And really on behalf of the PCAAE board and the secretariat, really appreciate your gracing our event. And thank you so much for your insight. Thank you very much, Jesse, for putting together a very talented group of panelists.
I love it. Talented.
We talk about talent.
Lloyd Luna, Marie, and Obet will be at the service of PCAAE. We welcome that we can contribute and then invite us, and we will. Yes. We will really share our thoughts with you.
Now that we met, at least virtually, we are confident we can work together. And as Obet mentioned, collaboration is the new currency of the time. So thank you so much. And, I turn you over now to our MC so we can continue and hope you can stay for the rest of the summit.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, Bobby.
God bless.
God bless.
Yes, thank you so much. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, members of our panel, as well as Mr. Bobby Peralta. Moving forward, our next panel discussion will focus on what it takes to be an agile association leader, especially that we are faced with such uncertainty. Allow me to introduce your moderator. Ms. Cora Conde has over 30 years of experience in different areas of development, banking, and more than 10 years of exposure to the world of associations. She's credited for leading the PCAAE Board of Trustees and membership to a higher level of engagement, commitment, innovation, enthusiasm, and energy towards professionalizing their associations and making them sustainable in the long term. She's presently the group head of ADF IAP Consulting, former senior vice president and head of the SME Department, Development Bank of the Philippines, founding member of PCAAE, and actively involved in the association's continuing education initiatives, specifically the Certified Association Executive Program. She's a certified professional association executive represented the ADFIAP as speaker or participant in various international association events such as the IMEX Frankfurt, IBTM Barcelona, and association expert seminars of the ICCA in Frankfurt. Our first panelist is Mr. Charlie P. Villaseñor. Charlie Villaseñor is known as a supply chain, procurement, and logistics management icon in Asia for his advancement of ethics, excellence, and enablement in supply management field. He used to be the LBC Express Senior Vice President from 2015 to 2017, the Ariba and SAP Company Regional Director, ASEAN from 2001 to 2002, the Buy and Trade, Commerce One e-marketplace COO from 2000 to 2001, Caltech Chevron Regional Director for Asia, the Middle East, and Africa from 1995 to 2000, the Coca-Cola Supply Manager from 1992 to 1995, 3M Company Logistics Head from 1989 to 1992, China Bank Export-Import Analyst from 1986 to 1989. Our second panelist is Mr. Octavio B. Peralta, or Bobby Peralta is fondly called the Association Man by his peers in France in the association community here and abroad. He's the immediate past Secretary General of the World Federation of Development Financing Institutions, the President of the Asia Pacific Federation of Association Organizations, and an advisory council member of the American Society of Association Executives. And our third panelist is Ms. Evelyn Balmea Salira. Ms. Evelyn Salira has over 30 years experience in association management work and has advocated for the professionalization of the Secretariat for all organizations to make them continually relevant to their members and the industry they represent. She started her association management career with the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, where she quickly rose from the ranks. Joined the Philippine Retailers Association in 1994, founding Secretary General of the Philippine Franchise Association in 1995, the Philippine Council of Associations and Association Executives, First Association Executive of the Year awardee in 2015, Association Executive of the Year during the first ever APAC Association Awards 2017 and 2018, and featured on the cover of TTG Magazine for associations. And our fourth panelist is Richie Villarica Ronquillo. And Richie is a multi-awarded communication leader with 40 years in the profession. She's an IABC Fellow, the highest honor bestowed upon a member of the US-based International Association of Business Communicators, who has significant impact on IABC and on the communication profession. She's an accredited PR professional conferred by the Public Relations Society of the Philippines for competence, ethics, and experience. She's an advisor, past chair, and past president of IABC Philippines, an advisor, President's Council member, and past president of the Public Relations Society of the Philippines. She's a trustee of the University of the Philippines College of Mass Communication Foundation, Incorporated, and of the Philippine Council of Associations and Associations Executives, and is a member of the UK-based International PR Association and IPRA Philippines. She has led campus, barangay, parish, alumni, and professional associations and foundations through the years at country, regional, and international levels, and served in senior management positions in the cement manufacturing and construction solutions industry and in the energy sector. She has also led her teams to win awards for excellence in communication, PR, and CSR, and has received citations and awards for leadership. She also speaks at international and national conferences, summits, fora, and webinars. She's the first Filipina to be named as a director of the IABC International Executive Board. She's a training consultant at the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication at the Mapua University Center for Continuing Education and Special Competencies, and was adjunct faculty and professional lecturer at the De La Salle University Manila and Enduran Colleges. She was a UP Entrance Scholar, a scholar of the Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas, Broadcast Media Council, and UP College of Mass Communications Outstanding Broadcasting Student, and KBP's Most Outstanding Broadcasting Student for Academic Excellence, Community Work in the Barangays, and Exemplary Leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, your panel. And I will now turn you over to our moderator, Ms. Cora D. Conde.
Good day, everyone. We are now at the tail end of our program, and our panel discussion on what it takes to be an agile association leader is a fitting closing to our two-day virtual summit as it touches the very core of the theme for AS8, which is leading with agility. To set the tone for the panel discussion, let me just give you some background on agile leadership. The word agile is an iterative approach to the software development era in the 70s that helped teams deliver value to their customers faster, with solutions evolving through collaboration and self-organizing teams. The term has since evolved as a project management concept anchored on an organization's ability to urgently respond to an ever-changing and uncertain environment. With an unexpected onset of COVID-19 that literally crippled most businesses, the concept of agile leadership associated with quick action, innovation, and collaboration emerged as a fitting approach to leading organizations towards the road to recovery under a new normal. Can we have the PowerPoint presentation, please? Okay. We are now on our third slide. For this panel discussion, we are focusing on 5 traits of an agile association leader using the first 5 letters of the word agile, coined by no less than the founder and CEO of PCAAE, Mr. Bobby Peralta. These traits are adaptable, genuine, insightful, leapfrogging, and entrepreneurial. Each panelist will expound on one that sharing an agile leader that employed to cope with the turbulence caused by the pandemic and lead his association towards the new normal. May I now give the floor to our first panelist, the Secretary General of the Philippine Retailers Association and PCAAE board member, Ms. Evelyn Salire, who will expound on adaptability in the PRA story. Evelyn.
Thanks so much, Cora. Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. First of all, congratulations to our team in the PCAAE for a very insightful convention for the last 2 days. And especially kudos to Bobby and his team for putting together a very good program. So to start off, thanks for the introduction about what I've done for the association. I've been in the association all my career and all my professional life because I felt that it made me provide more impact, not only to a company, but to an industry. So I now work with the Philippine Retailers Association. First slide, please. So the PRA is the National Trade Group of Retailers, Shopping Centers, and Suppliers. We have over 400 member companies, including all the major players in retail, like Shumart, Robinsons, Mercury Drug, Wilco Depot, Bench, and the like. Just to put it simply, whatever brand you buy, whatever store you go to, whatever shopping center or wherever shopping center you shop, they would be members of PRA. And our membership constitutes 80% of the total retail industry. When the pandemic hit and we had the lockdown in March, we were, like everybody else, we were at a loss at the beginning because we didn't know how to start adapting to the situation. We didn't know how things were going to pan out. In fact, one of our very first webinars when we started doing the digital transformation for PRA was already the playbook for post-COVID. That was the very first one that we did in April because we thought that the pandemic will not take this long. And so we were talking about how to recover, how to recoup, how to stand again, and all of these things. And we had a very good attendance from our members. But as it turned out, it wasn't going to be that simple or that ending that soon. So we had to think of other ways in how we can help our members adapt. Next slide, please. So what we were seeing at the beginning, and in fact up until now, was that the pandemic has hastened our digital transformation, not just in the PRA, but more so with our members. And because we are the retail industry, our members were one of the most hard hit sectors of the country of the pandemic, because if there are now no people shopping, the stores are closed, then there's no business. And it's also a fact that retail is one of the biggest employers in the country. And you can just imagine the displacement when stores close. But thankfully, our members had to adapt in the goodness of their hearts, at least in the first few months of their closure. They were still able to continue providing salaries to their staff, allowing them to work from home. But retail is not a work from home business. It's people facing business. So it was a very difficult adaptation for their employees as well as the businesses that were affected by the pandemic. Next slide, please. So what we did at the onset was we came up with this ad. We said, welcome, we are open. The PRA is open for our members. Whatever you need to help you cope, whatever information you need, whatever things we can provide you at this point in time, let us know, because we are here to help you. And this ad went up in our social media accounts and in our EDMs. So we reassured our members that despite the closure of the industry, despite the pandemic and whatever else is happening around us, the association will always be there for them. Next slide. So how did PRA adapt to the situation? So alongside our members, we had to digitally adapt. When we say digital, we had to go into anything digital to be able to continue our service to our members. And one of the first things that we did was to reinvigorate our members' Viber group. Today, it's a simple, everybody's into Viber or WhatsApp or Messenger. But at the time, Viber was just one of the communication platforms that we can use. But when the pandemic happened, it became a community for our members. It is where they met up. It's where they talk. That's where they share their problems. It's where they told PRA, please help us in areas that we cannot help ourselves. For example, one of the things that really helped we were able to at least help our members was that during the time of the lockdown, naturally the stores were closed, but they were renting in the shopping centers. So when they opened, or when the shopping centers reopened in mid-May or June, one of the things we did was to ask our shopping center members to be more considerate to the retailers by giving them some reprieve in terms of rental or KUSA or the common usage area fees. And we wrote to all our member shopping centers. Thankfully, well, most of them, practically all the major players are with us. And we made a presentation on behalf of our retailers. And because again, as an association, our strength was in numbers. So when PRA speaks, we speak on behalf of practically all the retailers that are in the shopping centers. And because of that, our shopping center members who were already also thinking about doing that was encouraged all the more to help the retailers. And a lot of them did give reprieve to the retailers. And all of this came about because in the Viber group, we were talking about, what can the shopping centers do? We will not be able to pay for our rent. There was no business during that time. So our representation opened the doors to communicate in behalf of our members, retailers, and the shopping centers. And then, of course, everybody went into the social media platforms from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. And because our members are also there, we had to also be there. And one of the things that we did was that we tried to help communicate whatever is happening in the industry or whatever the new happenings with government vis-a-vis our industry. So in fact, one of the things that we did was we sourced out all the relevant government issuances, laws, financing programs. We put them all in our website as an accessible resource for our members, so that they would only need to go to one place and get the right information instead of having to look for it everywhere and getting probably the wrong source of information. So we had our staff working from home. We had them research all of these materials. We went to the websites. We made some communication with our contacts in different agencies, and we put all of these things together in one area in the website. And then some of our members at the time when PPEs and masks were still a problem to source out. Some of our members who are also suppliers were able to access or were able to import or create or manufacture this equipment or these PPEs. So they offered that to the members, also to the Viber group. And what we did was we asked all the members who were offering all of these different COVID-19 PPEs, masks, sanitizers, and everything. We put them in one resource as well. And we call them a COVID resource suppliers site within our website. And we invited our members to go there and told them, rather than, look for it in or Google them anywhere, why don't you just go to our website and work with our members, with your fellow members, so that at least business can be continued. Okay. So that did happen. And again, we were able to at least help put together some business between those who need the supplies and with the suppliers. And I think one of the things that our members appreciated was us being always communicating with them. I think more than ever, when one of the programs I joined for PCAAE, I think somebody said there's no such thing as over communication anymore at this point in time. I think everybody wants to understand, wants to know what's happening, and for them to get the right information at the right time, I think the association has to be the one to provide that to them, and that's exactly what we did. Let's go back to the slide. And so, again, in line with our digital transformation, like everybody else, we pivoted to digital events. And we didn't deliver this even during the lockdown. Our staff had to learn how to use Zoom. We had to partner with organizations who were doing Zoom. And no investment on our part, just a matter of networking and get in touch with friends. We were able to conduct our webinars. I think we were doing like 4 webinars a month. That's practically 1 every week. And our members were really appreciative of what we have been doing, because everything that we did was meant to help them. Okay, so we are now into e-commerce. What do you need about e-commerce? You need to know what are the platforms to use, how to market your products, where to go, what platforms to use for your e-commerce business. And this is what we did. We gathered experts, local and international, through our network, and we were able to provide them this information, these learning packages, these learning programs.
Naghahanap si Mistress ng link for 3 p.m. nyo daw.
Tara na? Pwede ka ba? Pwede ka ba?
Pwede naman.
Hey, there's a connection coming up. I think our moderator should come in.
Evelyn, I think you can.
I can continue?
Continue, yes. Please
Okay.
talk about that.
So it's okay. So I think the digital transformation helped us deliver our services to our members faster. And since everybody's into social media and they can easily access Zoom and all the other platforms, we were able to deliver what we wanted to deliver, and in the way that we want to deliver to them, quick and very informative and for free. On the good side and the bad side of the digital event was that we had to offer all our webinars for free. At a time that, of course, even the association was being challenged financially, because there were no membership fees being collected at the time. We had to still deliver it, and we had to deliver it in such a way that will be accessible to all our members and even to non-members. Because I think at the end of the day, the pandemic opened the doors for everybody. We did not anymore segregate between a member, a paying member, and a non-member. All retailers need to be helped at this point in time, and they need us, the association. We are not just an association for our members. We are an association of the industry. And so that's exactly how it panned out. And we're quite happy. Thankfully, being digital doesn't mean it has to be expensive. With the availability of the different platforms that can be had for free, and with the partnership that we had with a lot of organizations that were willing to help us transform and do our activities digitally, we were able to deliver the services to our members in a location or in a platform that they can easily access, and in a manner that they can easily afford. And I think that's one of the important things that associations are expected to be now, to be there for their members in whatever platform, whether it's mobile, whether it's digital, or on the internet, or in whatever ways, or in the different social media platforms. And I think what was important for us is that we were able to be there everywhere. One of our members mentioned that we were very active. Evelyn, you're so active in all the social media platforms. You always see PRA in all the postings in LinkedIn, in Facebook, and in Twitter. And I said, we needed to also be the platform for you to see that these are platforms that you can use in your business now. So if you want to promote a sale, if you want to promote your brand, or if you want to promote your store, then wherever you find PRA, that's also where you should be. And so it's a very mutually beneficial undertaking for both our members and PRA. Next slide. Okay, so I think that's my last slide. So
Yes.
again, we adapted, and I think for retail especially, digital was the adaptation that we needed to do, and that made it happen for all of us, both in the Secretariat and with our members. Thanks, Cora.
Thank you, Evelyn, for sharing with us how PRA adapted to the new normal by hastening its digital transformation to keep its members connected and to be able to continue delivering its programs to members during the lockdown. I particularly like your ad that you are open. I think it's something that's very welcoming to your members. And it's an indication, it's an indication that whatever happens, you're there for them. So thank you so much for that. Now it's my turn to talk about the ADFIAP story on the agile trait of genuineness. Next slide, please. According to Kevin Eikenberry, there are 4 traits of a genuine leader: being real and sincere, recognizing we are flawed and our actions are intentional, meant to reach good outcomes for our members. These 4 traits are summarized by the statement seen on the screen that says, genuine leaders bring the best of who they are to their work and then intentionally work to improve their skills and approaches to become closer to what they are capable of, all in the service of leading others towards a desirable destination. Let me share with you how ADFIAP embodied genuineness through transparency in dealing with its members and staff. Next slide, please. ADFIAP augments its revenues with training and consultancy fees. With the pandemic, face-to-face training was no longer feasible, and consulting engagements were not the immediate priority of the members. Meantime, the overhead expenses of the Secretariat based in Manila are continuously being incurred to maintain quality and timely service to its 87 members in 38 countries all over Asia Pacific. While ADFIAP has reserved funds that would safeguard its operations within a certain period, business as usual is not foreseen in the near horizon. ADFIAP therefore made an appeal to its members to advance membership dues in 2021 with the hope that by then, online training and consultancy activities can already generate revenues for the association. ADFIAP also employed work from home arrangements and reduced the number of physical reporting days to 3 days in a week to save on overhead expenses such as electricity and water consumption. Since 2 of its staff are due to retire by year-end, the retirement was advanced with corresponding compensation for the retirees and savings for the association. This transparent move has kept ADFIAP afloat all these months and hopefully until the new normal sets in. Next slide, please. Genuineness through sincerity was likewise promoted by ADFIAP with its unique value offerings to its members. Trainings are always demand-driven with prior diagnostics and are then customized depending on the gaps that members identify in their operations. To show its sincerity in really helping its members, its training comes with an after-sales service wherein participants can seek support and assistance after the training in implementing the concepts learned. Next slide, please. Another trait of genuineness is recognizing flaws. An example of how ADFIAP exemplified this is when it implemented an EU-funded Switch Asia project in 3 countries, China, Indonesia, and India, on building a clean tech financing ecosystem to spark improved access to finance for Asian clean tech MSMEs. In the project conceptualization stage, its strategy was to tap financial institutions in each country for the purpose of building the envisioned clean tech financing ecosystem, only to realize during the results-oriented monitoring mission that each country has a unique financial ecosystem that has to be acknowledged. Hence, ADFIAP revised the desired outcomes in the implementation stage to capture this uniqueness and ensure project success, which was appreciated by the project funders. The project successfully ended in December 2019, attaining, if not exceeding, its committed deliverables to the Switch Asia program. Next slide, please. Genuineness is also being intentional to achieve the best outcome for members. ADFIAP's brand of training embodies that as we do not only conduct the traditional CAD and theoretical training, we blend it with experience in our previous work to make theory close to reality. Our brand of training is a two-way street where the participants are actively engaged and they have a back-home action plan that they will bring to their respective banks for implementation. We also employ the team approach to share the varied expertise of the trainers and enrich the content of the training. What we therefore offer is actually a holistic package that covers not only training, but also coaching and advisory. The leveling of expectations at the start of the training is intentional, as we would like to meet majority, if not all, the expectations of the trainees. Hence, there are times when we would adjust our training agenda during the training proper just to meet their expectations. This is the intentional unique value proposition of ADFIAP trainings that elevates it a notch above the rest. I hope that I have clearly articulated ADFIAP's story on genuineness. Our next panelist is PASIA and PCAAE Chairman, Mr. Charlie Villaseñor, who will share with us experience on the agile trait of being insightful. Charlie, you have the floor now.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. I think we're having a lot of good things on this conference. Let me share with you a little bit about what we're actually doing in terms of practicing agility and leading in through it. Again, my name is Charlie Villaseñor, and I'm the CEO of PASIA. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about PASIA first. We're an institute and an association, but we're doing a lot of things to help many companies, not only simply on behaving like an association, but we're creating quite a lot of value proposition for many of our constituents, both professionals and companies and organizations as well. We're very focused on this area called supply chain, procurement, and logistics. A year ago, very exactly November of last year, we had our own strategic plan. And one of the things that I told my team was to focus on risk management. My background is supply chain management. And when you're a supply chain management, you're quite a little bit more paranoid. You always think like, what could happen wrong? So during that that 1 year ago session of strategic planning, we listed several items that can go wrong, including losing all of our constituents, seeing a lot of competition taking up all of our opportunities, and being relevant to the industry. So it was a very good exercise of looking at risk management, creating our strategic plans. And we really were so pragmatic to it that one of the things that we said is like, we can always create this strategy, but if we don't change the culture of our association, we will never be able to survive. I always believe that culture beats strategy. There's even a book into that. And if we don't change our culture, if we don't become a purpose-driven association, I think we will lose all of the things that we said we can actually deliver. Another thing is like we have to heighten up all of our value proposition as well. We always have to look at the worst supply chain scenario. I speak like a supply chain guy because I am, but I can tell you that everybody of you listening to me right now is like, even associations have their own supply chain. And when you actually do supply chain, we always have to say that you need to control your organization's growth and failures. In order to do that, you need to plan, you need to source, and you actually need to move. Next, please. So we used to get a lot of our revenue in a lot of many physical face-to-face interaction with the industry. We implement softwares and technologies. We provide consulting. We provide services on face-to-face engagements. And suddenly something happened, right? When we heard that December, there was a pandemic, we were so clear that in the next 3 years, it's going to be a very difficult year. Clear sa amin yun. We really saw it. And on March 3, Biz News Asia and ANC interviewed me on TV, and I painted a very challenging scenario. I said, since the pandemic is here, we should really get to brace up. So, January, February, we had time to actually fix our positioning. We made sure that all of our consulting will be done immediately since January on teleconsulting. And we knew and we benefited for the fact that we were really preparing all of our training programs on online training, no? or e-learning. We saw it was very difficult to put this online training in place. We really have to work with providers and experts who can really help us put this content into the portal. And we actually have to make sure that we are able to adapt. We're in all of our used services are actually being done electronically already. And we have to adapt more technology. We were quite fortunate then that when we spoke on March, we were tempered down in being so panicky about the situation. But when it moved from March 16, March 20, 25, we were now on April. We found that the situation is really quite bad. And we had to look into our all of our areas of operations, finance, operations, and the like. And we were all working from home then. But, we have our burn rate, we have our cash inflows and outflows that we need to actually take care. We have investment that has been made into the technology that we have adapted. So we actually have to continuously move forward. Moving from April, May, June, July, we continued. It was very difficult until like June. But when it came to around July, August, we seemed to be picking up in many respects. Good enough because we have a lot of services that were really money makers also in helping many organizations look for suppliers, and we benefited from all of these consulting works that we actually get to do so. Next, please. So we concentrated first, on our core competency. We were known in providing trainings and certifications. It was one of our sweet spot, and we are a Philippine-based organization, but we operate globally. We have very big clients, multinational Fortune companies. We're in our revenue streams from them are really in good amount of substantial sizes. So we try to protect our existing customers and corporate members to be able for us to actually win their confidence to continuously actually help them. So we made sure that we had a very clear vision, and we actually believe in our mission. because suddenly everybody was talking about supply chain. They said that the only way to address the pandemic is through the vaccine and having better supply chains. And we have all heard that the most important thing now about this pandemic is supply chain management. So we felt a commitment and a moral responsibility. So we prayed a lot. You know what? Before we don't pray as an association, as an organization, but we dedicated our every day and especially every Friday, where we actually devote an hour and so to just worship and pray together as an organization with songs and praises and sharings as well. That changed the culture of our organization, and we were able to step up in moving up in delivering a lot of the value proposition that we actually get to have. And we were really fortunate because the blessings were starting to come in more and rejuvenate us. We were changing, and we were also helpful in many of the organizations that we know. For example, PCAAE, I suggested immediately that we should actually have a Viber community to be able to communicate immediately. On March, we were doing a lot of Zoom meetings, almost also every week. Zoom meetings almost every week. Then I suggested also that we should actually help, if we have the experience in doing Zoom, why don't we help our own PCAAE to actually move towards doing a lot of Zoom webinars as well? And now they're very much self-sufficient. I think surviving and being agile is not only for your own success. It should actually create an impact to lives of people. So we wanted to actually step up further. Next, please. We made a significant investment, and bold enough to create the largest B2B e-procurement marketplace. This is like Lazada, but if Lazada or Amazon is known for business-to-consumer buying, this is for companies who wants to buy electronically with all of their suppliers. We created a marketplace, and we're populating and assessing and certifying suppliers to be on their e-catalogs on our marketplace. And we're getting a lot of companies right now enrolling so that they can buy contactless and more efficiently, corrupt-free, and the lowest available, cost on the materials and services that they're actually buying. This is really moving so significantly okay for us, and we're moving closely to reach our goals. Next, please. So it has a lot of key features. I'm not going to run into it. Next, please. It has a lot of opportunities for MSMEs to actually participate in a very challenging scenario. We're putting up PPEs and even vaccines into the portal so that they could actually, do consortium buying, anything that companies are buying. And we actually have to find a niche opportunity for us, like building all of this electronic catalog. So we're even bringing in this service, to our constituents as well. So it has awakened us. We learned a lot. We fail sometimes, but we actually move up and go for it again and recalibrate. So there's a lot of learnings. We saw one thing quite important for us. One, in the new pandemic or in the new world, the most difficult and the most important thing is to manage risk. Even associations will have their risk, and even their attached commercial entities. But we should not stop creating value. We need to combat the situation by creating these new values. We need to mitigate the risk that's going across us, and we need to transform. And the other thing that we need to do is, like, everybody has a cause right now. If you ask all of the CEOs, what is their priority? Their priority is to cut on costs and to digitalize. It happened to be that we are on this particular space. But we surround ourselves, next please, we surround ourselves with quite some principles that we think is very important. One is, like, we need to be ethical, next please. And we need to be very good on what we're doing. And we need to be e-enabled. Supply chain is the lifeline of our business. Supply chain is the one that saved lives of many people and of the country. It is the one that's going to create peace and order so that appropriate orderliness is there. And supply chain is going to keep the economies going, especially for the SMEs. So we feel that we have a mission to accomplish. It's very easy to be tempted to give up. Next, please. But we say we will never give up. because if companies and our corporate constituents becomes better, they create better companies, and better companies are better economies. You know, when you have better economies, there's better nations, and when there are good nations, there are better lives of people across the globe. So we target our destiny quiet, within the line of sight that we can actually accomplish. And in this particular new world, I think the only way forward is to really make sure that there's good collaboration across us, not only for our shareholders, but all of the different stakeholders that are affected in all of the works that we do. Thank you very much. And I hope I was able to give a little bit of an insight of where we are, given the agility that we need to implement in our very challenging environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, for such a truly insightful presentation on how PASIA employed teleconsulting, online trainings, e-services, and technology in its supply chain procurement and logistic activities, which is its unique and compelling value proposition. Let's now go to our next panelist. Our next panelist is APR and IABC Fellow, Ms. Ritzy V. Ronquillo, who will share her experience on the agile trait of leapfrogging.
Thank you, Cora. And hello to all my fellow panelists. You've been hearing good stuff, and I hope I will be able to add on to what else they have been sharing. So I sit in several organizations, and I've really been very blessed that I was able to get involved in different associations of different types, from the barangays into marginalized communities, CSR, doing sustainability for corporations, as well as for the parish, alumni associations, and now in professional associations, and of course for PCAAE, which gathers all of us into one big umbrella. What is unique about all of this is that each one has its own purpose and mission, but somehow we are all tied together because we all are now into the world today of dealing with the pandemic and perhaps looking into the future, what's it going to be like for us. It just so happens that in my field, we have already been into digital for a long time now. There is a wealth and slew of so many channels, whether it is what they call in advertising below the line, or whether it is above the line, traditional media. But what's important is that, and I will carry this out throughout my presentation, is that there are a lot of channels out there. But what's important for everyone is to assess, what do I need? What do my customers, or what do my stakeholders or members need? What fits and what works? So you don't have to be in all these digital channels. You don't have to be in all these communication platforms. You just have to choose what works. And that's what communicators do. So we are in all, actually are members in all the different organizations I'm part of, because we are communicators. We are in different fields. We can be in hospitals, we can be even in the military, or we can be in foundations, we can be anywhere, because precisely communication is an enabler. So this is a time when we are looking also into ourselves as professional communicators and asking ourselves, are we relevant? Are we specific to what our organizations really need? So yeah, I am Ritzy, and I am very honored to be a panelist today. So my part is leapfrogging. Now, if you think visually, what comes to mind when you see the word leapfrogging? Well, it's like you're going to jump over someone else, right? So let's go to the next slide. Now, they say agility. This session, it's been defined as the ability to move quickly and easily. But then again, I have seen how sometimes leaders look at agility as the speed, mainly speed. And I have seen leaders who have been too focused on the speed and are still missing out on the target because precisely they forgot that there is a secret ingredient to being effective as an agile and there as a leader who leapfrogs. It's the people's motivation and the inspiration that we give the people who look up to us that are the secret ingredients. Issues, crises, disruptions, gray areas, these are areas that communication thrives in. And this is one moment in our lives that communication is rising to the occasion to help define to people what things are, how can we look forward, how can we survive today. So again, it brings us back always to where we all begin, which is people. And that's actually getting ahead of my story. So let's go on to leapfrogging. Now, they say leapfrogging is surpassing or overtaking another to move into a leading or a dominant position. Now, getting ahead of the curve is a leader's dream. It's whether it be gaining market share, whether it being the brand of choice, or the most credible association in the field. All that show that there is leader-enabled growth, right? But may I offer, though, the following prerequisites to drive growth, especially in today's times of authenticity. And we often hear now diversity and inclusion. The pandemic has changed us in such a way that what worked then may totally not work anymore. So if you look at this next slide, which I just listed some what I call prerequisites for growth. So for me, it all starts with our core as a leader. And my other panelist colleagues have mentioned this. It's our core as a leader. And I refer, it's very important today for our values and character. Who are we really? What drives us? Who are we when we are pushed against the wall? Because then that will define the type of decisions we will make for our associations. What do we do, especially when no one is watching? And are our values aligned with the organization we are part of and vice versa? So for me, governance, relevance, and viability are my highly recommended pillars as a leader. And this applies to any organization. I use this during my term as president of the Public Relations Society of the Philippines. For me, once integrity, compliance, and ethics builds the trust and credibility of the organization. And then the second is the relevance, meaning how attuned are we to the needs of the members or your stakeholders? Is our is it what we are doing? Is it something that the members truly need? What do the signs of the time really tell us? That's why we do surveys as communicators. We do that a lot. We do focus group discussions. We have the Delphi Oracle. We try to interview people and ask them for feedback. So how do we try to resolve and offer what is relevant? Otherwise, people will not come to us. People will not come to our organization to sign up as members because we do not answer any needs that they have today. And the ability, we can only do so much as long as we have the right resources. So we need that viability, the ability to ensure that our association has what it needs so we can carry out our programs. And there's another element that I think is true. And this is, I think, very important to future-proofing our organization. If I may turn to the next slide. Now, the organization I'm part with, IABC Philippines, or the International Association of Business Communicators here in the Philippines, has an award program that celebrates and recognizes top leaders who are able to achieve what they said they would do, and sometimes not even just achieve, but surpass. Because communication is an essential pillar of their business strategy. It's not an add-on. It's not the press release that you ask your people to make. It is the communicator sits at that C-suite table and gives advice and counsels because that communicator is supposed to see down the road and anticipate the risks and anticipate what could be the impact on all the stakeholders. So also, I have seen CEOs. I've served in companies and associations where CEOs really were able to do this. Number one was, my first example is, I have seen a CEO who, in spite of the fact that his whole organization was very short of sales goals, they were nowhere near the sales targets, which in fact would impact on the EBITDA of the organization. But because he was able to explain, because he took the bull by its horns and was out there and explaining personally to the people with clear key messages, and he was able to chunk the work into achievable, smaller targets, that organization didn't just achieve in record time, it surpassed. And so everyone was happy. Everyone got a bonus in that company because precisely of how he was able to steer the direction from losing to winning. Then there's another example of a CEO who told his secretary, clear my schedule. I am going to every single office of my employees and I will explain to them what is the what is an employee stock ownership program, and why should you even buy into the ownership of your own company. So he went and tirelessly talked to every single person he could talk to, and at the end of the offering period, that company had 98% subscription. And even up to now, employees of that company enjoy the benefits of having invested in a blue chip company. I know because I'm one of those who listened to and subscribed to that program. And it was only because of our leader who said, this will be good for you and your families. This is for your future. Agile leadership, leapfrogging at that, really sees people as ascendant. After all, programs are made by people. New digital programs are programmed and conceived by people. And there is what we call now the Industrial Revolution 5.0 that says man and machines will not be adversarial. Instead, they will work hand in hand to solve problems. We will now adopt cyber platforms as what we are seeing now to solve the human needs. Agile leaders, by their wide experience, see opportunities down the road. And that is now a thriving and hot topic, even globally in conferences. How do you future-proof your organization? These agile leaders, precisely because of their wide experience and their openness, they're able to see down the road and say, I am willing to do this, to look into this area. They see blue ocean. They see unexplored and huge potential in areas where others ignore. So for example, I believe in investing in people. So for example, when we launched in 2005 in PRSP, the Student PR Congress and Grand Prix, at the time they said, oh, investing in an event for students is not a profitable thing, so why should you? And even up to today, I hear some global leaders say, Ritzy, why are you looking into encouraging students to get involved in award programs? That won't give you won't give you much income, you know. These are students. Yeah, I said, sure. But you see, you just don't invest now, you invest down the road. So at award programs, my former students tap me on the shoulder now and say, I'm here because I'm a winner. And today in the organizations I'm part of, some of the most hefty sponsorships are coming from entry-level professionals who we mentored, or students who once upon a time were like, no, well, we're not CEOs, but are now driving change in their respective organizations. And because we invested in them, and because we talked to them and told them about this standard of being a professional association person, they are now coming back into the field and being leaders themselves. So, leapfrogging leaders encourage the heart, celebrating little victories, remembering little acts of kindness and dedication, and rewarding this. I remember CEOs who up to now are very cherished by employees because he bothers to know what is their name. It's as simple as that. And so this builds team spirit, sees potential, and mentoring. Now, I'd like to share this in our next slide. This is I call it the thinking process, but this is the outline we use when we make our campaigns in the International Association of Business Communicators. I'm currently chairing the global award program for this, and this is what we use. But if you notice in the outline, actually it's almost like a scientific method. You establish your facts, you establish your research, and then you map out. Marketers are very good in this. You map out who are the people you should reach. So it's like, why are you doing this? For whom? What do you want to achieve? How? And by how much do you want to move the needle? But why is the stakeholder analysis in red? Because to determine what goals you want to do, to determine where you want to move the needle and how you want to do it is determined by who it is that you are targeting. So it's a challenge, because the more you know about who you're reaching out to, the more successful you will be. So the cornerstone actually of all communication with purpose and leaders, agile leaders, those who want to leapfrog know this, know your stakeholders by heart. So, and next slide, please. Through the years in the profession, here are some points that I'd like to share to help agile and leapfrogging leaders to future-proof their lives and organizations. So one is, today we know we are in a global reach. We are experiencing a pandemic in every single country today. The global Gold Quill Awards that I am chairing today, because of the pandemic happening in all the different countries, has turned to being virtual. We're doing the whole award cycle virtually, including the awards night. So this is a big change for everyone, which now brings me to the keyword ecosystem. Sometimes we're so focused on our work, we just focus on what there is right in front of us. We focus on what is happening in our company or in our association, but we are now super interconnected. And I guess the agile leader will be able to see that we have to have symbiotic relationships, sometimes with partners who we never thought are important. Sometimes they can make or break us. And there's an evolution. The next keyword is evolution, because there is a transformation and adaptation going on. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's still survival of the fittest. So we want to be the fittest to survive this all. And we bring along all our partners with us. So we're all going to go through this together and achieve. Then sometimes we do not pay attention to our internal infrastructure. What could this be? The secretariat, could be our internal processes, could be the regulatory requirements that are expected of us. We need that, plus all our external strategies and synergies. It should lead to sustained positive relationships, because by doing so, we can have trust. And then if there is trust, then we should only speak the truth, leading to credibility and acceptance of our organization. Media choice and mix, because as I mentioned earlier, there's so much out there. We do not have to use every single digital platform. We just choose what fits, what works, and what we can afford to have. Sometimes we forget we need a back end. We forget. We just say, hey, I want to have, say, Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all that jazz. But if you ask who's going to manage it, we forget. We need management, content management. We need a person to constantly look into that, answer queries, because this is social media, so we have to respond. It's not just a matter of putting it out there and being something to read. And then heightened alertness, as mentioned earlier also by Charlie, this has brought about, and it's a challenge for communicators as well. We do risk assessment for our organizations. And so risks, issues, and crises, we have to raise the bar. And because we are now part of the whole system of business continuity, it's, as I said, it's not just a matter of coming out with your story out there in the diarios or in the broadcast field. It's the strategy behind it. And so we must have responsible existence. We exist for the good for so many. That will keep us going all these years. So what are the takeaways, final takeaways for what I'd like to share is that leapfrogging is an attribute of agile leadership that spots and implements positive and sometimes very maverick change. It further needs the core of the leader, the core of the organization, who it is, what's its strength, what it really is, and how it responds, whether it's authentic and honest enough to respond when they are in difficult times, when it's so much easier to be unethical. And second is the knowledge and sincere concern for the stakeholders concerned. People are still ascendant. And number three is communication and leadership are inseparable. Um, Nowadays, and with the next gen of millennials, actually, I am being reverse mentored by my children who are millennials. They remind me of authenticity, truth, ethics, of non-biased and non-judgmental statements and decisions. So I guess it's not, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just about the digital for the sake of digital. It's not just speed for the sake of speed. It's what fits and what works. It's in wanting to future-proof our organizations, people remain ascendant, and let's all exist for good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritzy, for the new learnings. We learned a lot from what you presented, and for imparting the message that communication and leadership are inseparable and one of the prerequisites to moving into a leading or dominant position wherever you are, in what organization or association you are in. So let's now move on to our last panelist, but definitely not the least. Our last panelist is no other than the association man himself, Mr. Octavio Bobby Peralta, to talk about being entrepreneurial as an agile trait of a leader with respect to PCAAE. Bobby, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Cora. Dear summit attendees, friends, fellow panelists, again, good afternoon. And it's been a long 2 days, so just bear with me to tell you the story of PCAAE with regards to the letter E, entrepreneurial in the agile acronym. So I just picked three sort of characteristic or trait of an entrepreneur or an entrepreneurial mind, and that's flexibility, creativity, and risk-taking. Flexibility is synonymous to adaptability, and that's what Evelyn mentioned about the story of PRA, Philippine Retailers Association, that has adapted to be able to serve their members. Creativity is also synonymous to innovation, and I think Richie also alluded to leapfrogging, and because of being creative, not only in terms of your core, your people, but also as a leader. And risk-taking. Of course, we know that in any risk, there will be opportunities. And Charlie, our chair, also mentioned about risk mitigation, which is important, but it's also in an entrepreneurial world, you need really to take the risk if it's calculated, if it's informed, and if it brings opportunities, especially to your members in terms of service to members, because associations, as you know, exist for members. Without members, there is no association to speak of. So next slide, please. This is the good times. One speaker mentioned that we need not look at the past, but this was the good old past. So PCAAE had conferences in many other venues. You can see people converging and so on. So we have also in-person seminars. We have the Certified Professional Association Executive Course. We have also other topics that are cross-cutting as well as new to update and also based on our engagement and interaction with international associations. And I have to tell you that we're not really far. I mean, associations worldwide have the same issues, have the same challenges, And it's good that associations now worldwide are getting together. So we have also events, and these events are not only here. We get invited. We get invited to other places, and these are some of the pictures we have in terms of trying to be more visible, to be able to share our experience and knowledge. And as I mentioned, because associations are grouping together, there are many countries that are putting associations together, like the PCAAE. And I mentioned earlier in my CEO report to the members that there is now such a organization called Asia Pacific Federation of Association Organizations, and that is we have members, 3 members in Australia, Korea, of course the Philippines is there. We are the founding member, as also the initiator of that particular group. That's Asia Pacific, but there's also Africa, there's also the US, North America, and then Europe also, and Latin America and others. So even in the Middle East with Dubai as the hub. So associations are converging, which is a good thing, I think, so that there's a rich and robust exchange of information, of knowledge sharing, of solving its problem, and of course opportunities to grow together. So next slide, please. So this is what has happened during the COVID time, and I mentioned also earlier that PCAAE has been busier than ever because the world has shrunk, and it's easy now to collaborate, to get invited, to speak, and to form or organize our own webinars. And thanks to PASIA, the chairman's organization, in May, we ventured into our first webinar, and that was a good response. I remember that was with the tourism promotions head, Ms. Leones, and this was with mix of from speakers from overseas, and we drew like more than 700 participants. Of course, that was for free, and we also were in Facebook and other social media outlets. So with that confidence and with that transformation on being able to run webinars, so we subscribe to Zoom, and we now run monthly webinars, of course for a fee, but it's not that much. It's associations also need to survive, and we need some cash infusion as well. But of course, we also know the members are also in need of information, solutions, their problems, and even just being there and seeing each other and greeting and how they are, and so it was just merely trying to network in a virtual situation. We also did radio broadcast, and that was broadcasted, I think, all over the world, especially in North America and overseas Filipino workers in the Middle East. So that was a good exposure. We did also some pre-recordings in virtual settings, one in Korea for the Union of International Associations. And we also got a lot of invitations in Africa, in North America, and in Europe. So the events that in the earlier slide I show you of being there in person now became e-events or virtual. So what lessons did we learn from COVID? And I'd like to share you in the next slide about the 4 Ps. I also mentioned this in the report to our members earlier. So the first P is just like PRA, just like PASIA, just like other associations, even ADFIAP, really has to pivot to digital. And as Richie mentioned, it's and also Tony mentioned earlier, it's evolution. It's not going to be a revolution. You can get affordable technologies that are available. So affordable and also but usable and user friendly. So not only in terms of engaging with members, but also internally. We have to digitalize our content, and we're hoping to roll out in next year some e-learning courses. And the next P is really on partnership and collaboration, and that has been, I think, one of the cross-cutting issues and good happening that this pandemic brought is really working together, being partners, collaborating in many other activities for the benefit of members, and coupled with digitalization and partnerships is really to upskill people, the staff, and there was some mention about how should staff be able to adapt also in this agile environment. So adapting to technology, some people skills, and we've heard in the earlier panel about how people can also be trained not only the hard skills but also on the soft skills and also on the hard skills. And finally, the last P is really to plan right away for a turnaround and look ahead and see, of course, you cannot plan long term as before, but at least you have a 1-year plan or maybe max 2 years to be able to really see what you're going to do as an association for next year. And I think one of the things that I learned is maybe as early as this year, we should be able to have a calendar of activities already for next year, so that we'll be able to undergo and undertake programs and activities and map it in the calendar, so that we will be able to really announce it earlier, so that people can our members especially would be able to know and really put this in their calendar. And I'd like also to share another from 4 Ps, I go to 3 Ps in the next slide. So what are the essential resources of associations going forward, even before these are needed? So first is talent. We heard in the earlier panel about talent development. And by talent, I really mean about your human resource, members, volunteers, and staff. So it's really critical that human resource is taken care of, not only in the office environment but also on work from home. Make sure that they're okay and supported. And I really personally believe that the organization is only as good as its people, and that's the most important resource in these 3 areas. So the next T is really about technology, and whether we like it or not, whether it's modest or advanced, we really have to invest and embed technology in our own association. And so we have to think in terms of how technology can help our members. And lastly, we need the resources. I call it treasury, but really it's about funding. It's about the revenue generating, and it's also about knowing how to invest. And we've heard earlier that it's good that associations should have reserve funds and use it at this time, so that you don't really also put pressure on your members. So these are the 3 Ts. But if you ask me, first we need talent so that we can generate finance, and by doing so we can afford to have technology. What this? So these are the lessons. These are some changes that I'm saying. But what did not change in PCAE? So the next slide will say, we tell you that our purpose remains the same. Our mission and envision still the same, and that is the focus, and that's the most important part, because we have to know why we exist, and so we can plan and move forward. So just to repeat, the purpose of PCAE is really two things: to advance the association management profession, as well as to make sure that associations are well governed and sustainable. So that is our purpose. That's why we exist. And we do this, and how we do this is by doing our mission, which is to professionalize association leadership, both at the board and management levels, and to accelerate innovation to grow and sustain the organization. So purpose is the why, mission is the what, and how we can achieve our purpose. And of course, our dream, our vision is really our country, Philippines, where associations and other member-serving organizations are professionally governed and managed. And I mentioned that we are now looking at the possibility of making association management as a recognized profession under the Professional Regulation Commission. So this is something in the future, and I hope with that we can really fulfill our dream of professionalizing associations, because associations matter, because associations are big, and because associations help build help in building the country. So we need professionals really running associations so that they can do more. And finally, this will also not change in terms of the last slide, please. This will not change our framework. It's really, we are a facilitator to make sure that work that association board members and executives are really professional in their governance and management. So we facilitate that through training, through networking, through advocacy. And we are also a connector of ideas and also people to inspire leadership within and outside the community. So connection, collaboration is very much part of it, and we're doing that. And finally, we build communities, and this is the core, I think, of an association. It's a community that, when you are in a community, you help each other. In our context, we call it bayanihan. And so, we envision to have a vibrant community, make members and stakeholders more successful in their work so that we can move forward. With that, I end my short presentation. Thank you very much, Cora.
Thank you, Bobby, for sharing how PCAAE, with you was its agile leader, coasted through the pandemic, learning from the lessons from COVID, specifically the 4 Ps that entrepreneurs need to gear up for in order to transcend to the new normal, and the essential resources needed for resiliency, guided by PCAAE's purpose, mission, and vision, and its role of facilitator, connector, and community builder under its strategic framework. I hope that the summit participants will agree with me that we had a very rich discussion this afternoon from our association leaders. Thank you once again to all the panelists for sharing your stories on agile leadership. The floor is now open for questions. Let's check on do we have any questions? There is one here in the chat box from Boyet. What was the most important lesson you have learned as a leader in bringing your respective organizations in the now new normal? And what are your plans to future-proof your organization moving forward? So can we ask our panelists to share their thoughts on that question? Probably we can start with, I can see Charlie first in the frame, so.
Okay, in any organization, as I said, even association, your strength is really on the way you handle your own supply chain. In an association, you have your customers or constituents, isn't it? You also have your own suppliers also who provide you, like partners who helps you deliver your value proposition. I think in the new normal, associations will be significantly be tested. If associations doesn't provide significant relevance, associations will die without them knowing it. So in order to actually avoid that, there are three things that associations and any organization has to put in place. They have to run their supply chains within their associations appropriately. They need to plan. And as our president, CEO said, we need to even start putting up our training programs, what we're going to be doing for next year. In fact, that itself is really mandatory. You cannot be planning when you're already on January, isn't it? It's like for something that's going to happen in January. So it's very important that you have a clear line of sight on two parameters. The demand. How do you actually generate demand? And your relevant undertaking. But the other things that you will find out is like, where are you going to draw your resources? And are the resources available to support you? And resources means people, means suppliers, means events organizers, means learning management system providers, means any other company that adds value to your value proposition. The second thing is like you need to know how to source. You need to source for your proper membership. How do you draw in here? You need to source for your own requirements, and this could be materials and services. Because if you don't have this, then you will have nothing to put on the table. And the third thing is like you need to move. And that's where agility will have to happen. In the pandemic, I would expect, and I don't want to end it this way, but you have to brace for the worst, right? As I always say, what will tell you that's gonna be better next year, But you have to turn around too, and see where are the best opportunities available for you. You should concentrate your attention where you could really not only survive, but you can thrive as well. As Bobby mentioned, which I pick up from him today in many of his discussions, Bobby talked about the association's world is getting to be together now. And that for me is very important. Because I always believe, that the value of the group is based on the square on the number of participants. What do I mean by that? If more and more associations come together and help together, it lowers down the cost of operations, or it lowers down the testing period of things that needs to be tested. Everybody significantly benefits together rather than associations working in silos. I think these are the new world. My last statement here is like, agility means daring to lead. If you don't dare to lead, you will be a follower. I'm not used to becoming a follower. I want to dare. I want to take that risk. As most of you have also said, you need to take risks, but make sure that you know your plan B when that risk happens to you. And you don't need a plan B, you also need a plan C as well. And that resonates across associations, because we will be tried. But I hope at the end of 2021, 2022, 2023, we will not only be tried, but associations like us and PCAAE will be highly tested, battle scarred, and ready to move to the new normal. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie, for that very good and insightful comment. Can I request Evelyn to share her thoughts with us? on the lessons you have learned as a leader in bringing
Thanks.
your organization to the new normal.
Thank you, Cora, and thank you for that question. In the movie Finding Nemo, one of the fishes there was named Doris, and her mantra, and she kept saying that, was that keep moving forward, keep moving forward. At a certain scene in that movie, the other fishes were saying, why do you want to keep on saying keep moving forward? And then apparently she was right, because a big fish was at their back and was about to eat them. So I think that is the lesson that I'd like to also put forward, which is keep moving forward. At this point in time, I don't think it's even a good idea to look back anymore, because there's nothing good to look back during the last 6 or 7 months of the pandemic. The truth of the matter is, I mean, even for 2021, nobody's saying that things will be better yet. In fact, even our members are aware of that. I think while the government is slowly opening up the economy, for example, for retail, they are now allowing more restaurants to offer more seats, operate longer hours. So things are, they're trying to stimulate the economy, but that doesn't mean that it's because the pandemic is over. It's because we now have to just live with the pandemic and operate like it will be there forever. And in doing that, we become more aware of our environment, of what is happening around us. So rather than mope and say, "Oh my goodness, I lost so much money. I lost some stores. I had to close some stores or close my business for a while." We just have to focus moving forward. What is in the next stage of the pandemic? Not even post-pandemic. What is the next stage now? When we reopen, let's say in the first quarter, I was even telling my staff yesterday, hopefully we will be able to go back to, probably some live events, maybe some hybrid events. But I'm not putting all my investment in that space, because I think it will be difficult to bring people back to physical locations. There will still be a lot of trauma and a lot of cost involved. In fact, we were told by one of the big event venues was that if the venue that we used to get could accommodate 1,000 people before, they will only allow, I think, 1/3 of that capacity now for the same price, for the same size of room. So for associations, you can just imagine how much expense that would mean to us, right? So moving forward, I think if we're doing well on the digital field, which I think everybody has been able to adapt to, I think that's where we should now focus our efforts as well. Who knows, maybe in 2021, there will be new developments on the digital arena again, not just the Zoom, not just the social media platforms. And since we've already been prepared for that, it would be easier for us to adapt. And for the members of our association as well, moving forward means, okay, the new normal would be people will be wearing masks, people will be wearing face shields. You cannot bring in 50 people inside your store at a certain time. You need to control the number of people coming in, have more sanitizers and all of these things. These are added costs, and they know that. But that would be part of the new normal of doing business in retail, and probably for all other businesses for that matter. So we just have to focus ahead. Let's not look back anymore, and just move and live like the new normal is still the pandemic normal as it is now. And I think doing that, we'll be able to at least breathe, easier, and be more positive in our thinking and in our leading our organizations moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. I like that. I like the moving forward and not looking back, because there's really no use to look back. We just have to adapt to whatever we are faced with right now. I also like what Ritzy mentioned about considering maverick changes. I like the word maverick, because it's something that we should really consider seriously to be able to move forward and face the challenges that we are beset with at this time. So Ritzy, can you please share with us your thoughts on what important lesson you have learned in this new normal?
Number one, thank you, Cora, for that, and for Boyet who asked the question. Number one is acceptance. Um, we have to realize that this is what it is today. This, and as Cora mentioned, moving forward, I like that too. And as Charlie mentioned, is already preparing really and preparing for the worst. But I think also it's one. I would say number one is acceptance. This is it. There's no regrets. I think we should have no regrets in our life to move forward. So yes, this is what it is. Accept. Number two is go back now to your core. Because if you're not sure of what you are, what you can do, what your strength, what you aim to do, and what principled purpose you have, you're going to be lost. You're going to be lost in the midst of all these unexpectedness. So people say disruptions. Yeah, but I hear the word stress all the time. But for me, as a leader, stress is always part of the territory. And we must be able to deal with it. So go back to our core and remind our organizations why we are here, what mission and purpose there is, so that we have a focus, we have a focal point to move forward. Number three is I guess we have to expect the unexpected, and now look at, I'd say, blue ocean, the most, the unexpected, the unexplored, the new trails, and see what we are missing. Sometimes the solutions are in flanks we never looked at. So I'm hearing things even from media friends. They said that, for example, media literacy. Practitioners among the media say, even we have to understand now, being data driven, being basing everything on what data is, because that's where the stories are. And then I hear it also from HR friends that upskilling, and even from educator friends who say that it's time to look at what are the skills that we have, and we move now into the higher, what they call higher level type, meaning critical thinking, analytical thinking, because with the pandemic we are now going to go more into the robotics and into the AI and the internet of things, whereby things that are just the simple off and on, the usual things that we do could be done already by machines. So if that is so, what will we humans be doing? So we should be doing far more complicated things than what the off and on of that robot is going to do. Also, is that I also think that this element of, if you're into stage performing, as a stage performer, you're always supposed to expect the unexpected, meaning you're supposed to have that stage presence. You are prepared, you have rehearsed, you have over rehearsed, and you have done your risk assessment that something could go wrong. But if and when it does, you have to be ready to make that decision on the spot. And somehow it is comforting if you know that your leader is courageous, is prepared, and will inspire you to also be courageous. I think the fourth thing is that to future proof for organizations, aside from, of course, the processes, the strategies, and the tactics and the programs that we have, I think we as leaders have to bring hope. The pandemic, we're hoping, will not be with us forever, just as in the past SARS was around. There was a massive, a big global conference that was happening in Canada at the time. But look, through the years, we have recovered. And so I think that that element of bringing hope, that element of believing that there will be a better world out there if we work together, if we bring together the right bodies, the right organizations and people, I think that's very important. And also, of course, as a communicator, whenever we want to implement a certain change, we first take stock. So we assess, we do our audit, we we do our environmental scan, and we see what's happening out there. And then we ask, where do we want to go? What do we want to achieve? And then we want to close the gap by coming up with programs that make us go from, that's what we call move the needle from here to there. And again, I'd like to reiterate for today's world, it's not just about digital for the sake of digital or speed for the sake of speed. It's really what fits and what works. And it's existing for good. It's seeing down the road. It's making sure what we do today will not in any way endanger the survival of the generations that will come after us. And that's the true meaning of sustainability. So, and at the very core of it all, really, for me, it's always people remain ascendant. That's humanity. It's our core. We are in an ecosystem of interrelatedness. It's so crystal clear to us now, such that even our global conferences have to go virtual because we have to consider that in this country, the pandemic level is not so good, and in this one, it is not. Here, it is good. So to level the playing field, we have to go virtual. We are an ecosystem. We listen to each other now. And evolution. Things will always change. Things will always be transformed, but we adapt. I believe we adapt. And I believe leaders must bring that hope and must bring that forward. The only way to future proof our organization is to make it relevant, make sure it's something of integrity. We have the right resources, but we must lead with hope.
Thank you, Ritzy. That was very well articulated. If I were to summarize what you mentioned, probably I can pick up some words like acceptance, innovation anchored on your core, leveling up, partnership, and considering the ecosystem where you are operating in, and working within that ecosystem moving forward. So may I now ask Bobby to share with us his thoughts on the lesson learned and moving forward?
My answer to that is rather simple. Well, from my perspective, and it's really some kind of a cliche. It's really back to basics. You know, when we are growing up, we went to school, and our teacher said that, you know, to have a good education, you need 3 R's. I always like acronyms, so 3 R's. So if you remember, that's reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? So if you got reading, writing, and arithmetic, you'll, you know, be able to at least be educated and be good at your work. So in association management, I also have, based on my experience, I also have 3 R's for you. The first R is really about relevance. So you have to be relevant to your members, and that's the very important. Meaning, you know, your services, you're there, etc. You know, relevance. The second R is about relationship, and association is in the business of relationship, and that's where collaboration, connection, and linkages are all there. And finally, resources. As I said, you know, association cannot survive without resources. And the resources I mentioned about the 3T. So that's people, that's talent, technology, and money or treasury. So back to basics, whether it's pre-COVID or post-COVID, I think we need, as association leaders, those 3 R's that are important to associations. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. We have some questions for each of the panelists here. Let me start with Bobby. Tessie, based on your presentation, I can surmise that part of PCAAE's entrepreneurial agility is to adopt best practices of for-profit organizations into the non-profit mindset of associations. Can you please elaborate how this can be done?
I think you must have heard John Peacock in yesterday's presentation that he doesn't like the word non-profit. because if it's if non-profit, that means but association also are not for loss organization. So we really need to, whether we call it profit or excess of revenue over expenses, I think it's a good thing because you have to build reserves, and that's where being enterprising comes to the fore. So being enterprising, as you know, is really have a mindset of a business that you should be able to balance, your revenue and expenses. And we heard from Dot Miller, for example, that you need to have a budget because if you don't have a budget, then what will happen if your expenses exceed your revenue. So it's not a good thing. And in the end, while associations do not provide dividends to their members like for-profit organization, but the mindset of being entrepreneurial, of being profit-oriented should be there. So especially when you talk about the revenues, there are many types of revenues in association world. Many associations only look at the membership dues, the annual membership dues, but that's not sustainable. And so you have to diversify your revenues. And as we have discussed, so we call it the NDRs, or the non-dues revenue. And it comes from many sources like selling publications, sponsorship, like that mentioned, a lot of ideas, consulting in the case of ADFIAP, training training programs and conferences, all that are revenue generating activities. But the pandemic also, hampered all of this revenue. So you need to build a reserve fund, and that's where you use it now. This is the rainy day, and this is the storm days, as Dr. Miller mentioned. So you need to be enterprising.
Yeah. Bobby, I can see that you're wearing your development banker cap. Because as development bankers, we always say there should be a balance between profitability and your social mandate to be able to continue rendering service to your target market or constituents. I fully agree with you. There's a question here for Evelyn. Evelyn, as a trade organization, how did you maintain PRA's relevance to your members?
Sorry. Okay. I think, as I mentioned earlier, there is no such thing as over-communication. And two of the things that we really maintained in PRA during this pandemic was visibility and communication. That's why we were everywhere that our members can see us, whether it's in social media platforms, in EDMs, in publications, even on TV, and even in events like this, because we wanted our members to know that the association is still there, it is still active, and if ever they need us, then we will be able to, that they can come to us and we will be able to respond. And so, having said that, we had to continue that sense of, or the one that we came up with, the one ad that we said, we are open. Actually, we never closed, whether we're working from home or back to the office, like we are now on Skeletal Force. We just have to be there, and that the members have to see us. And in doing that as well, I think what one of the good effects of that being everywhere, one member was saying, I keep seeing you everywhere. And I said that then that's a good thing, right? And so what one good thing that came out about that as well is that we were noticed by a lot of companies. Bobby always keeps on also talking about generating income, no? Beyond the membership dues. We were noticed by a lot of companies, both foreign and local, and they came to us and said, you're very active in social media, and we've been seeing all your webinars. We'd like to partner with you. And so even without us aggressively looking for these companies, they were now coming to us because we were very visible. So that's how we made ourselves continuously relevant with our members. Constant communication and visibility.
Yes, so you are visible not only in good times, but more so in bad times.
True.
And the members can knock on your door anytime that they need anything from PRA. That's a very good motivation for your members. For Charlie, one of the major effects of the lockdown was the disruption of supply chains around the world. What industry was most affected among your members, and what rapid decisions and immediate actions did PASIA institute to support that industry to sustain its business operations? If you were to handpick an industry that was most affected.
I think the most affected could be the retail companies, right? Simply because they generate their revenues from walk-ins. When you do a lockdown and nobody gets to go out, then the retail organization, the restaurants, and the tourism industry are basically the ones immediately affected. The rest of the entities, like manufacturing companies, would tend, because they were given passes anyway to still get to operate in some levels. What can they do? I don't think we cannot do anything. That's actually the threat to a lot of economies. Lockdowns created more economic problems for countries. Being a supply chain professional, you don't use lockdowns, easily or wantonly. Lockdowns are used to reposition or recalibrate the decisions that are going to be made by the authorities. Lockdowns are made as much as possible short time to recalibrate what would be the next best alternative position that needs to be put in place for the country. So we're careful. I don't think the government wants to also lock down, because once they keep on locking down, they realize the economy continuously sink, in that area. So that's my item on that particular question that was given.
Yes, I guess, Charlie, it's a domino effect in your case, because it's a supply chain. So if I don't want to use the word lockdown too, but in case if there's a lockdown, then it's a domino effect from the supplier down to the consumer. Yeah.
You know what? We're like watching all of the supply chains. It's like bowling. It's gonna strike everybody because we're all interconnected. All of the suppliers have their own suppliers. There's a tier 1 supplier, second tier, third tier, and up front there's also customers, tier 1 customers, tier 2 customers. So we really need to reposition, because if you don't reposition as early as now, you'll be surprised that there's going to be a lot of disruptions, or maybe you don't know that you will not meet disruption because there's nothing to go into. So the supply chains are interconnected, and this thing is happening on a global stream. So it's really going to affect everybody. But it's good, like we continuously survive because of some level of technologies. And as we all know, there's gonna be casualties here, because it's not going to be a U or V-shaped recovery. It's gonna be a K-shape, as we all know already. But there are also a lot of industries that are thriving: the healthcare industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the health and wellness industry, the technology industry. So if you are on those certain areas, then there's an opportunity, there's a breath or a new breath of life. But if you are not there, you have to adapt also, so that you can actually marry a few of the core things that you have towards what these survivors and these successful organizations will be in the long run. But I've said we need to watch this very closely, because I normally talk. One of my funds is to talk a lot of CEOs of multinational companies. I maintain a sort of like an old group. I normally check them out, even my previous bosses, and they're spread across the world, and I really get their opinions, and I really value elders' opinions, because they've been through a lot of things already. They know what's going to happen. When these things actually happen.
Thank you. For Ritzy, you mentioned in one of your key takeaways that communication and leadership are inseparable. Is there a possibility that a good leader who is not a good communicator can succeed by working through his people, since one of the traits of an agile leader is empowering others.
Yes, Cora, that is possible. There are some people who have great thoughts, but they just don't like to say it, or that's not their one of their best attributes. But I think for a leader who knows, that's why I said you should know your core. So you know your strength. If your strength is not in being articulate, then you choose a person or a group of people working for you who can articulate it for you. The thing is, when you do that, you make sure that the person who will articulate it for you, that's why we have spokespersons, should be aligned with your values. Because this person is going to be like your, what is the term we use? He's going to be like you. He's like, if it's not going to be you, that person is you. So the style, the choice of words, the way it's communicated, how frequently, the manner in which it is communicated is very important. So, for example, we have cases where, for example, there was a disaster that happened. So, if the spokesperson does not come across as empathizing with what happened, then it gives the CEO or whoever he is representing a bad name because he does not live up to the expectations of the moment. And he carries the reputation, he carries the character of whoever it is he's representing. That's why communicators are, when they join organizations or associations or companies, it's one of the responsibilities that they must be aligned with what is the way of the organization, and they must reflect that. On the other hand, you reverse that, it's now the leader who has to make the right choice because whoever speaks for him is like him or is him or her.
Thank you, Ritzy, for that. To summarize the discussion on what it takes to be an agile association leaders, all the panelists gave examples of how they quickly reacted to the unexpected COVID-19 pandemic to lead their association towards the new normal. Identified responses to sustain business for the long term were digital transformation initiatives, collaboration and partnerships, clear and effective communication, transparency, talent development, strategic thinking, innovation and pioneering activities. And if we were to sketch an ideal agile association leader as described by our panelists, I would say that he is someone who can adapt to an uncertain environment and institute new game-changing strategies with calculated speed through people empowerment, team effort, and buy-in among stakeholders to achieve the organization's vision and goals, no matter how volatile the environment may be under the new normal. That is how I would sketch what everybody described as an agile association leader. With that said, I'm closing this session with the hope that you have learned some insights from our association leaders that you can apply in your respective associations. So I'm giving the floor back to Bobby. Bobby, will you be saying something?
Yeah, we're also gonna close the summit, and before that, going to Charlie, I think there are three more raffle prizes to be raffled off for those who are remaining in the attendees. So just hang on, and I think Boyet is ready. After
Yes,
that,
Bobby.
we will now go to our closing session, and it will be closed by our chairman, Charlie Villaseñor. So,
Okay.
Boyet, please.
Thank you, Bob. So at this point, we would like to acknowledge first our sponsor for the gift certificate, the Philippine Retailers Association, and maybe Evelyn, if you can is it possible for you to read the the winners? So we will be giving away another GCs worth 1,000 for each winner. So we will be drawing 3 winners. So those who stayed with us until the last will be rewarded. Okay, let's draw the first winner. And the lucky Evelyn.
It's in the middle. So I
Would
think
you
it's
like?
Bernie Briones.
No, no,
No,
no.
no, I think it's
The winner
Is it
is
Kat
Kat
Nanta?
Santa.
Okay. She's PRA.
Okay, so we have the first winner.
is she here or?
Kat, are you here? Can you please use the chat box just to acknowledge?
Oh, she's here.
Okay. Okay, let's draw the next winner. And the winner is Evelyn.
Oh, Arlene.
Arlene Orencia.
Congratulations.
Arlene, are you there?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Please
And the
show.
last winner. Oh, there you go.
Another Arlene.
That's another Arlene.
Arlene Liberal.
Okay, congratulations to Arlene Liberal. Are you here? Online?
She was
Arlene?
online. I saw her name. I don't know if she's still here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Over to you, Bobby.
Congratulations.
Thank you and congratulations. Over to our chairman for the closing remarks.
Yeah, it's a privilege to do this, Bob. And again, thank you for your leadership also and making a lot of things, so successful in our 2020, annual conference. A lot of speakers and a lot of support from the sponsors have given light, especially those on the back office who really work a lot, without, being in front of the audience. So thank you very much, especially to the secretariat. And for all of the members of the of PCCA, we would really like to thank you. This is a day of thankfulness, especially that it's Thanksgiving Day. But we have a lot of things to be thankful for, isn't it? The success that we have made here, the fact that we are still doing these things, and the fact we're quite healthy and doing the things that we wanted to do in life. So let's all count our blessings from what we have actually seen, and let's be resilient. Because it's not going to be a walk in the park, come the new year. But I think there's a lot of opportunities and successes that we are going to achieve as a collaborative and consortium of associations coming together. There's a lot of opportunities to innovate as well, to be able to reap the benefits of our hard work. But I think we are now on the edge of really transformation. So I will keep this. Short and sweet. All I can say is thankful so much, and I would say all of our works are intended to be given to our God and to Him. So to God be the glory. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Let's give ourselves a big round of virtual applause. So, Boyet, are we going to have the ceremonial photo again for the closing?
Well, if you wish.
Why not? Just for the closing.
Okay. For the rest of us or for the panel only?
Whatever is available, as long as we have a momentous
maybe we can
photo souvenir. Ask everybody to, everybody wants to join us. It's good, yeah. Come on
just
video.
give us a minute. We will bring all the panel, the attendees to the panel room so we can see each other.
Yeah.
Before that, Mr. Chair, just to remind the attendees, the platform will still be there up till tomorrow, I believe, and you can access all the recordings, all the screenshots that have been taken during the summit. So you can visit it anytime. It's going to be there, I believe, for one more day, and it's going to be 24 hours. So at your leisure, do check the on-demand portion where you can see, as I said, the recordings of all and the photos and also some resources, and visit also the virtual booth. So yeah, up till tomorrow, I think.
Yep, we'll do that. It's
Thank
so
you.
nice to see everybody on screen.
Chris,
I
I
see Chris.
think we are
I see
now
everybody.
seeing them.
are
Please
you
open
in Hong
your.
Kong? How's Hong Kong?
Is
You're
Chris
mute.
around?
We are.
David,
Hi, Chris.
Janice,
Hello there, everyone.
Christian,
Hi, Ritzy. Hi, Evelyn.
Christian Paul, Janice Guan,
You-
Trustee
Hi.
Philippines. Please
Hi,
also turn on
Janice.
your videos.
Congratulations, everyone.
Hi, Gwen.
Yeah, I see a lot of
Hi,
new
Evelyn.
I see a
Congrats.
lot of new nice faces. Huh?
Dixie,
One
Cora,
more,
Hope to
everyone.
see you more active,
Hi,
guys.
Jane.
Bobby,
Hi, Jane. Are you in Malaysia?
Oyet.
Okay.
Hi,
Okay.
all.
So,
Hi, Rolly. Rolly from
Rolly around.
Cabanatuan. Are you Cabanatuan?
what about David? David, Christian Paul? You don't want to open your your video? Hi, Janice.
Hi, Janice. Hello.
Yes, she's behind my back. Literally. All the time.
You look
What
good,
about
Chris.
David? David Hunsay? Hunsay. Would you mind
Okay.
if you open your video, please?
Yeah.
Emmanuel.
Yes.
Oh, there's a lot. Leonore, Mary
Good
Ann.
afternoon, everyone. We're requesting to those people who still have their cameras off to please turn your cameras on so we can have a group picture.
So waiting for 3 more.
Maybe we cannot force them. Maybe something prohibits them to turn it on.
Correct.
We should go move on,
Okay.
Boya.
Okay, so there you go. Let's start. We'll have 2 batches. First batch?
It's nice to have
Okay,
this.
first match.
Huh? Isa lang. Okay, only one. Okay.
Kaya
Just give
lahat.
us your best. Smile. 1, 2, and 3. There you go. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Congratulations.
PCAAE.
Stay safe. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Be in
God
touch.
bless.
Thank you very much.
See you again next
God give
year.
the glory. Bye.
Bye bye.